We're going to be hanging out for a couple of hours here, and I sure hope you'll be able to stay for the entire time. But if you have to leave us, please circle back and come back in and, and see a bunch of amazing companies that are going to be pitching today. Everybody that is pitching has been pre-selected. If we have time at the very end and you happen to want to get in the queue to pitch later, we'll let you know about that option at the very end if we can fit anybody in for quick elevator pitches. The format for today, though, is going to be that the founders are going to get 5 minutes to do a pitch with their deck, 5 minutes maximum. And to the founders, you do not have to use all 5 minutes up if your message is shorter and it makes more sense to be shorter. Then we're going to follow that up with another 5 minute clock that is designed for the Q&A portion. And we have lots of experts in the wildfire industry that are here because of our co-sponsors of this event, and they are going to be helping with the Q&A. But I do want to try and keep our event moving forward, so hopefully we can get the questions in quickly. And also, if you're a founder, if you can try and get the answers quickly, we'll be able to get more questions in. If you take 2 or 3 minutes to answer one question, we may not get that many questions in. For those of you who are founders that are pitching today, please remember to at least include what your ask is. It's like, by the end of the 5 minutes, you should at least be able to say, this is what I need. I need, customers. I need investors. I need team members. I need something so that this is a productive exercise. Our community is looking to understand better what it is you need and to see if we can, help facilitate those needs. Another thing that I want to point out is that this is the first of what I hope will be 5 or 6 of these events over the next year. Wildfire mitigation, I hate to say, is a growing industry from the standpoint of how much it's costing disaster-wise. It's like every year it gets worse, it costs more, and it's the pain and suffering continues to increase. And whether you believe in climate change or not, it doesn't matter, because the fact of the matter is wildfires are happening all over the place. Here in Southern California, we literally had 2 wildfires just around our home just last week when we had some high winds. So Norma and I are very passionate about trying to see if we can, as a community, try and improve the odds of us being successful mitigating wildfires or dealing with them when they already are occurring, or preventing them in the first place. And we're very lucky to have a number of key people from another community who I'll be introducing to you very shortly, who has hand selected all the people who are pitching tonight, except for 2 that came through Venture Starters, and Devorto, who you'll be meeting here shortly. Devorto is the first company that Norma and I got involved in from the perspective of wildfires, and Norma will describe that in just a minute. I also want to say to everybody who is attending our events, who's never been to one of our events before, you just need to know that we don't know everybody who attends these events. And since this does involve investment and money at times, all the due diligence is all on you. If you want to get involved with anybody who is in our community, or you want to get involved with any of the founders that are pitching, or you founders want to be involved with anybody who reaches out to you, due diligence is on all of you. We just create this platform because Norma and I believe that some of the world's solutions to the biggest problems that we face are stuck, and we want to create a platform where we can try and get them unstuck. Anyways, I also just want to say we have upcoming events that have nothing to do with wildfires. For those of you in our community who are interested, next week we're doing life sciences. The following week we're doing a technology-focused event, all new technology, software, hardware, all kinds of innovative things that are technology-wise. The week after that, we're going to do a unicorn event. Those will be hand-selected. And then the following week after that is going to be our holiday party, and then we're going to take some time off. I hope you'll all join us for the holiday party. It'll be an open pitch event. Everybody who attends that wants to say something, we'll try and get everybody in at our holiday party. and we've had some great successes in previous years when we've done our holiday party events. Um, Norma, like to introduce everybody to my wonderful wife, Norma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for attending. It's very nice to meet you all. Mark and I are passionate about a few things. One is healthcare, as well as the other is wildfire. Just a short background, Mark and I lived in a home a few years back. The fire was literally pretty much close to our door. Luckily, the firefighters saved our neighborhood, used check, everything was fine. But I have some scary pictures that would even freak out some of you fire people that showed me in the window and the fire outside. Nevertheless, back then is when I really felt the need to do something about the wildfire problem in Southern California. So I started coming with all these ideas, and one of them was to watch from the up in space to look at what's happening. And we did meet Justin, which was a very smart man, ex-NASA person. And we got involved with Justin, and he has many ideas on what to do with his low-lying satellites, but one of them could have to do with fire prevention. So I'm very excited to introduce you guys into Justin, which Mark and I have known for many years, and let Justin tell you what's going on with him right now. Thank you, Justin, for joining us today.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Norma. Appreciate the intro. My name is Dr. Justin Selfridge, founder and CEO of Devorto, and we're building an aircraft that never has to land. So a solar-powered system that collects enough energy during the day, can run on batteries at night, and we're not constrained by fuel constraints. So the goal is not to get people or cargo from point A to point B. We just want to have persistence in the stratosphere to be able to get a black box sensor payload that can live in the stratosphere indefinitely. So that will let us provide better capabilities in satellites, but for the cost and logistics of a drone. So in a nutshell, DARPA has already spent $750 million trying to solve this problem. Tier 1 aerospace, even technology giants recognize that putting payloads in the stratosphere will provide the backbone for the next wireless telecommunications industry. The difficulty is batteries don't hold a lot of energy, and solar doesn't collect a lot of energy. So you need an extremely aerodynamically efficient aircraft to do that. Traditional airframes cannot accomplish that task. So what I did for my dissertation was look at a completely new aerial architecture that actually spins like a helicopter, but provides 10x less power than a traditional fixed wing. So what that does is it lets us achieve persistence through a large portion of the globe where other fixed wing systems can't. Now, what I want to do is kind of, rather than just kind of focus on the stratosphere and the telecommunications play, that's kind of the big end reach here. I want to spend a little bit more time talking about our immediate goals, our kind of go-to-market strategy. Up to this point, have completed $675,000 of R&D funded by NASA and the U.S. Air Force. We are currently working under a direct to phase 2 SBIR with a $1.9 million grant to get hardware to the stratosphere. But our immediate goal to go to market is something closer and smaller than a stratospheric platform. It's actually geared towards our customer memorandum with the United States Air Force for aerial wildfire monitoring. So right now, in order to provide this kind of aerial data, the Washington Air National Guard puts 2 or 3 people in a piloted aircraft that flies out of Washington. It has about a 5-hour endurance. They do a couple loiters, get that intel, and then they head on home. It's about a $2,000 to $3,000 per hour taxpayer expense to be able to provide that data. We would have a platform that would actually provide a 10-hour endurance, something that could deploy out of the back of a pickup truck. You're much closer to the scene. You provide the aerial data, get the people out of harm's way. And what they're really interested in for that specific application is not just being able to do a better job at a lower cost, but really the way they framed it was the first 6 hours of a wildfire largely determines whether they put it out in 6 days or 6 weeks. And having a drone with this level of persistence that we're targeting right now would allow earlier detection to be able to respond much more quickly. So I think we have a lot of people in the lineup. So I think I might just pause there and kind of see what questions, or I'm sure Mark and Norma will probably chime in and say you need to talk about this. So I'll just pause right now.
all I'll say it, because we have a big event, lots of people to pitch today, is if you would like to meet Justin and dive deeper in what Norm and I consider to be very important technology, not just for wildfires, but for telecommunications and a bunch of things, please find Justin in the chat. Justin will put his information. Oh, it's already up there. Perfect. And please reach out to him because he's a key reason why Norm and I are so passionate about wildfire. But it was because of meeting Justin that I then discovered Bobby and Claudia, who I'm about to introduce next, because these two are truly the pioneers on trying to create a community that is devoted towards solving wildfire, and they are doing amazing work. And for the last probably, I'm guessing, 2 years, I've been trying to sit in on their Wednesday events as often as I can. And I encourage those of you who are passionate about wildfire and trying to solve this problem to also be involved in their community and join their events. These two people are brilliant and they've done amazing work. I won't speak to it. I'll let them share their company, their organizations, and what they're doing. And they're going to be hosting today's event. They've brought 10 companies plus two that have come through, venture starters that are going to be pitching. Again, for those of you who are just arriving, the format for today is it's a 5-minute clock for the founder pitches, and you'll see the clock on a screen somewhere. And then when it get and unfortunately, because of screen share, our alarm bell doesn't ring when you have your screen share up and open. So I may have to literally just let you know that you're going over 5 minutes if you're not keeping an eye on the clock, because we will. And then we're going to set the clock again for Q&A for 5 minutes. So we have a total of 10 minutes to devote maximum for each of these companies. Before we do that, though, Bobby, whose name is actually Robert on his video feed, Robert Fishkin. But I know him as Bobby, and I think everybody who's friends with him knows him as Bobby. Please, I want you to meet them. They're going to basically make all the key introductions. We have a bunch of people also who are experts in the field who are going to help with Q&A. And again, for those of you who are just joining, Norm and I hope this will be the first of 5 or 6 events that will be wildfire focused over the next year. We don't know how many we'll be able to get in, but the demand to pitch was enormous. We have way, way more companies that would like to pitch than we could possibly have brought into today's event. And I can say on behalf of Norm and I, we are grateful for the outpouring of interest in this. And I'm speaking now on behalf of Bobby and Claudia. They are also grateful. We've been celebrating over the last 2-3 days how many people are interested, and we now know that this is going to become an ongoing event. There aren't many of these. There's no funds that we're aware of that are dedicated towards wildfires in the ways that we believe are necessary. But it's a huge potential industry. There's lots of opportunity. Investors in the room, if you missed somebody's pitch and you want to be introduced, please reach out to Norm and I. For those of you who don't know our model, open up the chat. Everything happens in the chat. But please do not spam our chat. So if you're a service provider, just one time, put your information in the chat. And also know that you don't need to take notes. There's a way to actually save the chat. There's 3 dots that are at the top of the chat at the end of the event or when you're leaving the event. Click there and it'll say save the chat. It saves it directly to your computer. So you can see everything, all of the email addresses, all of the information. The whole idea here is network. We want to get everybody to start to cooperate together, collaborate. We need money for these founders so the solutions work. Next up, I'd like to introduce Bobby and Claudia.
Phenomenal. Claudia is going to be sharing a presentation that we are going to be co-sharing on behalf of both Crowd Doing and our Catastrophic Wildfire Prevention Consortium that we are stewarding in collaboration. And I just want to share a bit of context for folks to have on this, which is that we see a need for a community of practice for the future of catastrophic wildfire prevention. We also see a necessity and an existential urgency to getting that right. If we can go to the next slide, please. Um, the context in the history of wildfire prevention is that we have had social innovation clusters historically, at least in some examples. This is an example, Deschutes, that the US government, public-private partnerships over many years created as an example. But the importance here is that there's not just one dimension. There's not a single magic bullet in this case study, but collectively, there's a really important achievement, a 17% net risk reduction in cost levels, and we can also see a corresponding risk reduction. And what we have here is a wildfire social innovations in combination can be powerful because there's things that are upstream and downstream of each other, right? In the case of nature-based interventions like this, and also in the case of technologies, if one technology is helping with detection, there's a theory of change that is reliant on the downstream intervention and upstream on community planning for resilience and home hardening and or nature-based solutions for breaks, et cetera. And all of these are connected. So if we go to the next slide, we can see that this all connects together for an air basin. Historically, we thought about wildfires at a fire basin and water basin level frequently, but we're now at the point where we can say that a important percentage of the harm from wildfires is happening in the highly populated urban centers. In the context of what we have in data in our research, we've done research with dozens of university course programs and graduate student alliances and collaborations that have connected us in part to this question of, value transfer theory and benefits transfer theory suggests we can use global evidence. In this case, this is evidence from Spain and Portugal and Australia for how much exposure to hazardous wildfire toxic effects in terms of smoke and air pollution creates per 10,000 people per a specific population, how much increase in acute bronchitis and asthma hospitalizations and heart attacks and strokes. And because we can know that, we can work backwards from a future in which these numbers are different. If we can go to the next slide, please. So this means that we can say in the future, if we wanted to get to a Bay Area that had half the air pollution per capita from catastrophic wildfire smoke, what is the combination of interventions, nature-based solutions, social innovations, and technologies that can get us there? Well, the exciting thing is that the scientific literature has advanced and the social innovation literature has advanced, and the social innovation clustering and risk transfer is not the only way to address risk when you can mitigate risk more efficiently than you can transfer the risk. And so if we can get to a society in which radically more of the effort is spent not on changing who pays in the sort of reinsurance retrocession risk transference metaphor, but change when we're paying so that we can get upstream. And that if we can do that by building alliances between the wildfire innovators of the future, many of whom are gathered in this room, I agree wholeheartedly with what Mark shared, that we are extremely excited and grateful to be in alignment to folks who are pushing the envelope of the future of wildfire prevention, mitigation, and resilience. And what we think is that all of us have upstream allies and downstream allies in our theories of change. And we're aiming to build a mycelial bridge between each other so that we can reach a bright future of air basin health per capita and community wildfire resilience. And there's so much more, but I'm going to hand over to our global co-leader of wildfire prevention, Claudia Brenner, to share more.
Thank you, Bobby. I'm always inspired, and I'm re-inspired today. And again, thank you to Mark and Norma. What a wonderful opportunity we have. Yeah, this slide for me kind of says, like, when the sky turned orange, and it was during the pandemic, that was the day with the toxic air. It was really hard to breathe, that I thought, it felt like Armageddon, and I thought, I have to do something. I just can't sit around. And so that was the beginning of this work. Bobby talked about these goals. But one of the things, just to iterate, we'll hear it a couple times, is that, not only do we want to move to prevention from suppression, and we'll always need suppression, but we are a nexus, and we're here to catalyze and accelerate innovations in the wildfire industry. Bobby talked already about this portfolio of synergistic innovations. And the only reason I brought this up in addition is because to the bottom right is kind of where a lot of the work's being done. And since we started on this venture, prescribed burns weren't very popular at that time, and now that has already changed. So you can see the industry changing. Drones were kind of new, and now they're prevalent. But the other thing, in addition to all these amazing technologies, is we really also need nature-based solutions. So we need like goats to, graze on the vegetation, to have better vegetation, healthy systems, as well as beavers to be able to, improve hydration and waterways. And fire doesn't exist without water, right? So we need to also look at those restorations. So our natural systems are just so integrated. We come from a systems view. I'm going to talk here now about a few of the programs that we have going. This is not everything, but we're highlighting kind of some of the areas. And today, we're going to be doing the showcase, but one of the areas we've been working already is with community focus. So we're bridging community with partners and partners into the whole ecosystem. And I'll just touch on the fact that we've launched a sponsor program, because we're as you can see, we've already partnered a lot and we're into the strategic partnerships. So because of time, I'm going to also skip through some of my slides. So bear with me on that. And we're happy, depending on the timing afterward, to talk with you more. So here we go. So one of the things that we've done with community is we partnered with Arise US. They're part of the United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction. I always ask Bobby to help me on that, but they are a public-private partnership group that does pro bono work for disasters. And so we focused with them.
Just to add a very tiny little bit more of context in that is that the United Nations Office of Disaster Risk Reduction had found it challenging to cooperate with small startups as well as large institutions. And so they created this Arise ecosystem in order to build collaboration from the smallest startups to large institutions around disaster mitigation and resilience in ways that can benefit us all. I'll just hand back over to Claudia. I just wanted to
That's great. That's why you always said so well, Bobby. So thank you. And I think Peter Williams, who we've partnered with on the scorecard with the Arise folks, I think he might be in the audience, so we're saying hello there. The website you can see is the scorecard.preventwildfire.world. Yeah. So just very quickly, Peter Williams, who fathered the scorecard initially with Resilient Cities, followed the 10 essentials for resilience out of the UN DRR. And in a nutshell, without going through all these categories, it's a very, very comprehensive way of looking at this at a systems view and also at a community view. And that's one thing that our group does over and over, is have that community view. It's way more comprehensive, and it's not meant to substitute what communities are already doing. It's meant to augment it. So we are now going out. We've got the scorecard. We're looking to make it into an application, and and so we're looking for pilots on that. Just one more thing here is that it's a whole bunch of questions, and what you can do by answering the questions, you get a score. And why that's so important is it shows like a baseline initially of like, what is the assessment of where the community is today? And then, where is its strengths and opportunities for improvement? And then you can monitor this over time. And you can see in the chart, like things are going to change. So that's just one metric kind of thing. Just tons of benefits. It provides a roadmap. It helps help the communities get funding And it also taps into this network and really enhances engagement. Another thing, it already got translated into Spanish. And that's really exciting because we are international. And, you know, we had heard some interest in Colombia and Argentina and some other countries. Now I'm going to switch to our pilot. We had a pilot. Actually, I'm still working with this community a little bit. Aldercroft Heights community pilot that we had. They're in California, and they're in what we call the Santa Cruz Mountains. So we're in the northern part of California. And as you can see in this picture, it is just very green, but it's also very overgrown. And it also is what they call a one-way community. They don't have an emergency route out that's official, like it's dirt. And so some of the houses don't even have, the fire truck is not going to be able to get there when they have a fire. And they had a fire last month. Fortunately, it was put out really quickly. There were a helicopter. But long story short, they're a key watershed. They're only 126 homes, but they actually, the series not only serves Santa Clara County, but it serves San Jose, which is millions of people. So when fires happen and the water gets toxic, that can be like in paradise for 3 years. So the impact could be huge, right? And that's where strategic planning becomes so important. Anyways, so they, when we met with them, we got put together with them by Ed Orr, who's a division chief with CAL FIRE, to test out some early software with Black Swan Analytics, and Tammy Schwartz, who's now part of Guidewire. So at that time, they had no plan, they had no funding, and they were kind of in a jam, right? And they're still in a precarious position, but even last year they had landslides from all the water. And I'll just highlight 2 things here that we got together with them a lot, and Tammy Schwartz and our team, actually, there's people like Aaron here, who actually met with them and supported them. We had a lot of partners come in, and in this case, Gilberto DeSalvo came in, so I'll talk about him in a sec. But so they went from no funds to $60,000 from San Jose Water to actually being part of one of California's largest watershed grant of 6.7 million. And that was our whole team effort, working with our CWPC, it's a shorter name for us, working with all these partners that we brought in. And they went from a squeaky wheel to darlings of the county, and now they're featured everywhere. And they've worked so hard, but the whole team together with the comprehensive planning that we did was really important. One last thing here is that day, Gilberto met with the community, kept in touch with them. He also, to the guy to the right, works at NASA. And they now have pilot equipment there on the land in a couple of places. And this is the benefit of having pilot communities where companies get an opportunity to test their equipment early on, right? So we're going to be doing more of these pilots, and just wanted to say, we're looking for communities on the scorecard and otherwise. We have lots of analytics. We did a grant, and you can see here that we had lots of partners. So we can talk more about this afterward, and we're going to talk a lot about this Nexus ecosystem, but you can see government here, business, academia, associations. I'm not trying to oversimplify that, but this is just 126 homes, right? In one part of a county. And look at all the things. And this doesn't include everyone. So this just shows the vastness of, the fire safe communities, working with the government institutions, working with the big business and small business. And Bobby, as he says, when I came in for another day, he's, had a whole teams of universities, I don't even 100, Bobby.
Let's bridge to the more of it, but we have to get to the pitches here shortly. So let me hand back to you, Claudia, for the conclusion.
Yeah, I gotcha. Thanks, Bobby. Okay. Anyway, so you get the Nexus thing, partners connecting to community. We do have a sponsor program that we're looking for this event and also for the work that we're doing. Our team is amazing. This is just a few of the people, incredibly talented and dedicated. we are looking, we haven't confirmed a date, but we're looking maybe January of 2025. And I have here, I won't play it, but this is a super cool technology of some of the deep learning that is actually by Hassam Mohammed and his team, Sanjeev. But anyways, we have so many amazing stuff that we want to present in the future. Oh, wow, there it goes. All right, this to me, this is amazing. The vegetation, to be able to look at the buildings and use technology. And here's our little QR code. This will take you to our website. We have this community of practice. We have the grant applications. We have lots of opportunities. By the way, we meet every Wednesday, which is how we met Mark, and so grateful for his presence and getting to meet Norman today. And yeah, come on the website. You can go into the contact and join. Yeah, here's our information. And I have a little bit on the groups that are going to be presenting today, if you guys want to interject here or anything. But that now we're heading into our showcase, and I wanted to just show who's on deck and all of that. Does that sound good?
Perfect. Go ahead, Claudia, and
Yeah.
let's proceed because we've got these wonderful organizations here that we have a chance to showcase. And just to give folks expectation, we also have an extraordinary panel of folks. I won't take time to roast the expertise, but they're wise and learned. And I feel like the interdisciplinary integration for catastrophic wildfire prevention is so much empowered by these folks on the line. And y'all will be getting to know them because we're going to invite our panel of curation partners as experts to help us ask live questions during the immediate follow-on presentation. But feel free to add also your own creativity, everybody in the chat, of course. And I'll hand back to Claudia's.
Thanks. Yeah, we can't thank these guys enough. I mean, you know, it's been a wonderful ride and to have this opportunity. And you know, like sometimes we'll talk about a fire and then they'll go, oh yeah, we were there. You know, they were fighting that fire. So here's our lineup. I'm going to move all of you guys over. Yeah, we'll start going through this instead of reading this out, but here's all the people on deck today. And as Mark said, you know, you have 5 minutes and you're going to manage your screens. Okay. Before we start, just real quick, thanks for this chart. This is an overview of the companies that are presenting today. And we talked international. We've got a lot of people from Europe and we'll have people from other parts of the world. It's a good distribution. It also looks real quickly at, you know, some of the types of innovations that we're looking at. You can see some drones, some home infrastructure. We tried to pick a variety of people. Yeah. And then here's just like the distribution of funding by, pre-seed, seed, Series A's, right? And yeah, and we had a little prep for all of us. So that was amazing, incredibly exciting. And here we go. So our first company up is N5 and Debbie Denninger, who's a CRO. So I'm going to stop sharing right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present, and let me share my screen and let me get rid of Zoom. There we go. All right, so I am Debbie Deininger, and I am delighted to talk to you today about N5 sensors and our wildfire detection system. Joining this group is impressive because I don't have to talk about why wildfire is important, but I will note that every pitch I do, I start with pictures from the Marshall Fire in my own hometown near Colorado and the devastating impacts and cost of wildfire. What N5 has done is we have developed a product that saves money and lives. We started testing under contract with DHS S&T in 2019 and launched our MVP product in Colorado in 2022. This product is used for early detection of wildfire ignitions, as well as support of prescribed fire operations for increased safety and improved community acceptance. I have two interests in presenting to this audience today. If you are an investor, I hope you will be excited enough about N5 to want to learn more about our Series A. And if you're a city, community, or industry stakeholder, or anybody involved in wildfire, I want to talk about your needs and how N5 can help. The challenge with wildfire detection today is that most fires are found by 911 callers. Existing solutions miss too many wildfires, and they also don't provide critical information like wind, environmental conditions, air quality, or the presence of chemicals, which can greatly impact the community and our firefighters. The solution is to keep using all of these things, but also to add a sense of smell. So what N5 has and what N5 Shield is an IoT sensor that can detect fires early while they're still smoldering and when they're not visible yet. It works alongside and in partnership with existing solutions to make them more accurate and more reliable. These network sensors are easily deployable on existing infrastructure, as well as tripods and fence posts. Our solution includes rugged sensor hardware, which measures gas, particulates, chemicals, environmental conditions, and wind. Multiple connectivity options that can work anywhere in the world, coupled with AI algorithms in the cloud to identify if there's a fire nearby and where it is, and if there's just simply poor air quality because of a fire or other cause that may be much farther away. That information is provided in our own intuitive dashboard, along with real-time alerts via text and email. But perhaps most important, there's also APIs for integration. We pride ourselves on integrating in the tools that our customers and partners are already working today as part of the holistic ecosystem. In addition, this data leads to insights that we can monetize in the future for prediction modeling and other sources. Our products are patented, providing N5 with a unique competitive edge. And our business model uses hardware to create information and insights. Our paying customers are land and property owners, including cities, counties, utilities, HOAs, agriculture, and the federal government. We've achieved amazing traction since we launched our MVP product. We've deployed in 19 states and provinces. We've added value-added resellers in the US, Canada, and Europe who are driving sales. Our largest customer is the US federal government, who spends an enormous amount of money on resilience and disaster preparedness, while second largest is utilities, who have existing budgets and a strong need for wildfire detection and the ability to move quickly. Other sectors which are driving current growth include state and local government, HOAs, and agriculture. 2024 has been an amazing year. Since launch, we've trained on over 7 terabytes of data, teaching N5 Shield to recognize the difference between ambient air quality, nearby fire, and types of fire. We've detected fires ranging from prescribed burns, rekindling, a dumpster fire, lightning tree strikes, and fires from unknown sources. Our resellers and partners have helped us deploy and gain recognition from many sources, and we're grateful to all of them. Our founder was a professor at the University of Maryland who developed the underlying sensor technology and leads an outstanding team. Mary Beth and I have developed, managed, and exited sensor businesses. I'm working on the commercial side for wildfire, while Mary Beth leads our government contracts, especially some defense chemical detection. So once again, I'm ending with 2 asks for today. If you're an investor, reach out to me, because I would love to tell you about our Series A and how we're going to use that money to scale our business, especially marketing, sales, and our supply chain. If you're a partner, city, community, industry stakeholder, anybody working in wildfire, then reach out and let's talk about how we can collaborate. Together, we can tear down the silos that exist in this space and keep our community safer while building scalable businesses. Thank you very much, and let me know if there are questions I can answer.
From the panel, do we have questions on hand?
This is Catherine Myronic in Silicon Valley with a focus on entrepreneurship for sustainable development goals. Can you talk about your AI? Is your AI developed in-house or using an off-the-shelf one? And so how are the new developments in AI helping you with this?
Yeah, it was developed largely in-house and with some researchers from the University of Maryland. We have deep roots in the Maryland state, or in the state of Maryland, I should say. And so we've developed our tools ourselves and our training data and our systems.
Other comments or questions from the panel, please?
You mentioned your the patents that you have, so it sounds like between those patents and the and your in-house training, you've got a formidable competition. But can you talk about the competitive landscape in this area? Sort of how, and maybe editorialize, how is the world doing at large on being able to use this type of sensor to make this faster and better?
Yeah, and so there are several companies who are making IoT-based sensors where what sets N5 apart is our in-house sensor and the sensitivity and selectivity. And that translates into being able to find smaller fires, being able to detect fire from further away, being able to deploy a lower density, which at the end of the day makes the system more affordable. But having said all that, a key piece of how I think about this business is I've heard the word co-opetition used. So any product that's getting out there that's adding more information to our stakeholders is a good thing. We work with camera partners, we work with prediction platforms, we pull other data into our platform via API, and we partner. So we think that we have some unique advantages, but we're also pleased to work with anybody, and at the end of the day, save lives and property and build sustainable businesses.
Thank you so much. Any other comments or questions from the panel? We have folks on the panel such as David and Josh and Lyndon and also Claudia or Mark, etc. But if other questions, comments at this point for Deborah. Thank you so much, Deborah, for sharing.
Claudia, you got to turn your mic on if you.
Yeah, quick question. Can you talk about your flexibility? Because we're here about wildfire, but you could apply this to a lot more. Can you discuss that?
Yeah, absolutely. Wildfires are a beachhead market. I've worked in sensing for 30 years, and I've never seen the kind of reaction to a new product launch as I have for wildfire. That's not me. That's the urgency of this problem. But the same set of hardware, in addition to detecting, identifying, localizing, tracking fire, also detects air quality independent of fire and also detects chemical threats. These are all cloud-enabled features that we can turn on with our AI pattern recognition in ways to keep the community safe that go well beyond wildfire. I love that question. Thank you.
Can I just ask? Oh, I see Lyndon wants to ask a question. Go ahead, Lyndon. You have to turn your mic on.
All right, I'll be quick. Are you looking at branching out beyond the early detection space to other cycles of fire management? Will these sensors have an application for maybe post-fire or mop-up? Or I think you mentioned mop-up, but I'd be curious as to other applications.
Yeah, absolutely. So we trained on prescribed fire a lot, but we also learned that that's a use case for our sensors. People understandably get nervous when people are lighting fires around their neighborhoods, and the electronic sentinel makes that feel safer. We have found 2 flare-ups from prescribed fires that were put out and rekindled. So both engaging in prescribed fire opportunities as well as some of our fire department customers keep sensors in their stations so that they can take them out after fire's been extinguished, quickly put them up as they're leaving, and have electronic eyes on the sensor in the event of a rekindling.
Can you share how much you've raised so far and how much is your Series A?
Yeah, so we're targeting about $8 million in our Series A. We had an earlier seed round that got us to this point.
Okay, very good. Well, we're going to wrap up because I see the clock is down to a few seconds left. Thank you very much, Deborah. That was outstanding. I love what you're doing. Claudia?
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Deborah. I'll head back to Claudia's part. Claudia?
Yeah. Okay.
It might just be easier if you just announce who's next so we don't have to keep going into screen share.
Okay. So on next is Skyseed. So Ole Seidenberg, CEO and co-founder.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. I will also just start sharing my presentation real quick. Hope it works and you can see it. Okay, let's go. So I'm Oli from Skyseed from Germany, as you can see or could see on the map. We are basically scaling the restoration of healthy forest ecosystems and also doing this as a post measure after wildfire. And I would like to start with a quote that differentiates between humans and what we usually do. We tend to using simplicity, as we also see in monocultures in forests, whereas nature flourishes by creating many options and can thereby defend itself much better versus different new things. And the bad part is basically that well, now it's not skipping, one second, that we are losing a lot of forest because we have tend to really rebuild forest in a different way, in a monocultural way. And this is just numbers from Germany. This is not only wildfire, but this is also bark beetle, windfall, and other different disturbances of forest ecosystems. But as you can see, even over here, although we only have 11 million hectares in Germany, we are losing hundreds of thousands of hectares over here. And this is why we started looking for a solution. And as you also can see in these numbers, although the symptoms are manifold, we are also having more and more wildfires over here in Europe, especially in Southern Europe, obviously, but the droughts are continuing also in Germany and also in Northern Europe. Although these numbers might seem small from a North American perspective, it's very large scale from our perspective over here. So now we were looking for a solution. How can this be redone in a different way and also be quicker than usually? Because the conventional methods of reforestation, as you might know, are really very expensive, very slow. There's a lack of seedlings, a lack of labor force. There's too little diversity to really build back better and to really bring in species that would then be more resistant than the just natural rejuvenation of the exact same species if you just wait and see what happens. It's also very dangerous often, especially here in Northern Germany. There's one example, there's just 300,000 hectares still contaminated by ammunition from the Second World War. So after wildfire, it's not even allowed to access the plots and to do something about it. Even the firefighters have problems to access by firefighting, but afterwards you are not allowed to plant. And there's also transplant shock if you do normal planting, and there's also root deformation. So the new plants have it more difficult to actually get established in the long run. So what do we actually do? We will rebuild biodiverse and resilient forest ecosystems, and we do this by combining nature's magic, basically by doing direct seeding with scalable tech. So in this case, as you can see here, mostly with drones. You might know similar companies from the US like Master Reforestation or Flash Forest from Canada. This is what we do in Europe. And we do this by combining these four elements. Basically, we are looking always for a biodiverse seed mix, which doesn't just start with climax trees, but also includes herbs and shrubs to build back a larger resilience. We do the seed pelleting ourselves. So we developed like coating that helps to save water next to the seed and also helps with germinating. And we have powerful tools for distribution, which is not limited to the drones, but also we are developing a rover right now that can also access different plots much more easily. And we have all the facilities to do the pelleting ourselves, to source the seeds, to prime them, to really have a quicker germination. And in this way, we can bring back diversity to the fields, to monocultures, and kind of grow back forest in a more healthy and more biodiverse and resilient manner. And this is just to show the effect of our pelleting. On the left side, you see the seeds without any pellet. On the right side, you see the seeds with our pellet, and there's a much higher number of germination, also vitality in the long run. And these are some pictures from the effects on the grounds. There are some wildfire plots already that we're working on, but many other disturbances as well, like bark beetle, clear cuts, etc., where we bring in new species. And this is where we are as a company. We have just realized 430K in revenues in the last season, and we are actually raising, as of now, this is the team, we are raising 3 million in total and looking for another 500K because 2.5 million are already committed. And this is our late seed round. So this is our ask, and I would be happy to get in touch with you guys.
Yay.
Thank you so much. Are there comments and questions from our panel?
Can you just take the screen share down so we can?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay.
Hey, great to hear about what you're doing. So you mentioned your competitors in North America. Are you thinking about North America as a potential market? And if not, how are you looking at the European market for this right now?
Yeah, actually, we're not thinking about moving to the North American market because we are both in close touch with our competitors, and we think that the problem is just large enough, and every one of us should take care of his or her own home market, so to say. We are definitely looking into Southern Europe because we don't see any initiatives coming up in Portugal and Spain. And we think now that we have developed the tech, we have developed the infrastructure and the software and everything else, we can easily transfer that. And we are actually cooperating with a big project in Portugal already. Although the ecosystem is different, definitely. There is eucalyptus as a monoculture and not so much pine as we have in Germany. But the symptoms and the effects are very similar. And also there, biodiversity is the only strategy to be more resilient in an uncertain future.
I think that's marvelous to have biodiversity ecosystem cascading co-benefits in the form of future mitigation, resilience, and adaptive consequence. I just wanted to see if there's other questions or comments from the panel at this point.
And if you have a question, we may not see your hand, or
I see a question in the chat. Did you get involved with farmland? No, we haven't. We did a first afforestation thing last week, actually on former farmland, but so far we are much more focusing on forest plots, forest areas. And I see a hand by Bruce.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I saw an advertisement for a seeding company that basically does something with wood. They make like a little screw, and it screws in, and they drop it from the air.
Yeah, I know.
That was
I know
brilliant.
what you're talking about. I also really love the idea, but the thing is, it's not thought through because the practicality is not there. Like if you would like to drop that in a large scale, you would have to produce so many of them that you can only apply one single or two, maybe two seeds to one of those things. And then the cost of this little product would be much higher. And if it hits a stone or whatever tree leftover stuff, it will still not really get itself into the ground. So it's just a too idealized version. I think it doesn't really practically work.
So your pellet takes a seed, and it's almost like an egg. It's like the albumin of an egg. It gives it a little jolt. It absorbs water, keeps the bugs away from it for a while, and then the root goes down, and that's what it does.
Exactly.
Great idea.
And it helps also. There's also mycelium in there, like mycorrhiza fungi and stuff like that. We are also adding, but all natural materials to make it easier, and especially for the herbs. They are so tiny, the seeds, that it wouldn't be possible to distribute them evenly on the plot without these, because they're really like 0.05 gram, for example, for 1,000 of those seeds. So it's not possible otherwise. Yeah.
And you could do this after a fire?
Yeah, you can do that after fire. Actually, after wildfire, it's the most optimum way of really getting in touch with the soil, which is the precondition. So if you go there after 3 years and there's grass all over the place, it's too late. So it's really the perfect moment. After a couple of weeks after the wildfire would be perfect to bring in other species. And also a number I know actually from the European Forest Institute, if you have a very mixed forest stand, then it takes 8 weeks in a very dry condition for the fire to turn off. And if you have a monoculture stand, it's sometimes just 8 hours. So there's a huge difference if you do this kind of preemptive measure to bring in other species that really help with fire prevention, basically also.
Do you have a patent on this albumin technology?
Yeah, on both the pellet and the technology for the drone. But the pellet is much more important to us.
Thank you. I could ask a million questions, but other people
I think there was a really great idea. Having lots of questions is fractal to our having curiosity. There were a couple other questions in the chat. Feel free to also return to, and I think there's also curiosity further from panel, but we're maybe out of time for adjustment. If that's the bell, Mark, we can go to the next, or he can answer one last question and then
one last question maybe. There was a question about the germination rate. So there is no standard germination rate. It depends a lot on the plot and the species. But overall, we have been up to 30% of establishment rate, so which is quite good.
Terrific. I think that we've reached the conclusion of this moment and we're going to have to proceed to the next. But I have gratitude for what you shared, and I have many more questions myself and also in the chat and also in community, I think. So I look forward
Thanks
to
a lot.
learning more. And let me hand back to Claudia for our next presenter.
Great. Thanks, Bobby. And thanks all. Yeah, next is Strong Water and Jeffrey Denholm, CEO and founder. Thank you.
Hi, Claudia. Can you see me? I'm going to share my screen now.
Yes. Yes.
We can hear you too. Yay.
Desktop. Why is
Seen and
this?
heard. Yeah.
Share. There we go. Can you see the screen?
Not yet.
Desktop. No, see, I'm having problems here loading this, which is I was worried about. Trying to get. Can you see that?
Not yet.
No.
You're going through the share button, the green button with the arrow.
Yep. Share screen. It says continue. It says the desktop. Where's
Yeah, just share the whole desktop and
I did.
more
Open,
questions in the chat.
and then it's asking me to open system preferences. Why don't we go to the next person and we
Go to
come
the
back?
next. I think we have a copy for you. Let me see if I can bring it up. But let's go to the next person. And while we're doing that, I'll go look for you. Does that sound good, Jeff?
Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next is ACC Innovation, Max Drew, CTO. And I hope I pronounced your name right. Please correct me if so.
It's actually me, Klaus, who will give this pitch.
Claus, sorry about that. Please introduce yourself.
No worries. Max is beside me here.
Okay.
So no worries. Hello, everyone. My name is Klaus, and I'm the founder and shareholder of the Sweden-based ACC Innovation. Me and my team has developed unmanned technology for more than 30 years. We have been working with unmanned aerial vehicles, drones, for more than 20 years. And 8 years ago, we started to develop the largest and most heavy lifting quadcopters in the world, the Thunder Wasp. Tonight, the subject is wildfires and wildfire suppression. So can Tila. So you can see this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. So wildfires cause multi-billion in damages annually in the United States alone. We are all aware of that. Problems with today's airborne methods and technology is, among other things, that manned aircraft cannot fly at night. They cannot fly in low clouds or heavy smoke or too heavy winds. Pilot duty time restrictions limit response time. Our part of the solution is swarming autonomous firefighting ultra-heavy lift unmanned aerial vehicles. And the good thing with this solution is that we can fly 24/7 and perform wildfire suppression. We never give the fire a chance to come back. We supplement to operations using manned aircraft because we can fly in the dark, we can fly in the clouds, we can fly in smoke. And unmanned aerial vehicles bucket at night when manned aircraft can't. Important milestones in our company's development is that we recently had a third-party validation by the Minister of Defense in UK, where we actually achieved the MVP status for the Thunder Wasp, which means a minimum viable product, and we're the only company so far that actually achieved this. We also signed the first contract with Fireswarm in Canada, where we are going to deliver the first unit in December. We are cheaper than ordinary helicopter systems in carrying cost per liter. The opportunity, why now? ACC Innovation offers the required unmanned aerial vehicle technology, bucketing operation using unmanned aerial vehicle during night hours or in heavy smoke reduces risk of flight, cruise, and increases firefighting efficiency dramatically, actually. With White House federal mandate to include drone technology in wildland firefighting is pouring the way for drone revolutions in the US. Why we need an investment to produce 10 Thunder Wasp GT in the new production facility, thus assuring serial production capability, expand the organization, increase the marketing activities, and strengthening the company's brand. Continue technology development, of course. And here are two video clip showing actually when we do practice bucketing water and simulate firefighting. And this video is very boring. This specific example continue for more than 1 hour, and we collect bucket after bucket after bucket after bucket to prove that the system is ready for 24/7. And we are flying in swarms with 5 systems at a time. That gives us a very good opportunity to spread the water in the best way.
Jeff, you need to stop screen sharing. There you go. Okay.
Är vi färdiga?
Yeah, we can see it.
You can see it. Okay. So this is a revolutionary way to actually be able to operate 24/7 without any pilots on board, using AI for swarming and so on. And this is just a quick sample of precision fire suppression. We also show you a short clip of how we deliver repair robots onto the rotor blades of wind turbines for repairing the front end to provide much more green energy to the world by being able to take care of 4 wind turbines in 1 day rather than 1 wind turbine in 2 weeks. Then you can calculate how much more green energy the world gets from there. The wind conditions here is 5 to 8 meters per second, and that is my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I'd like to see if we have questions or comments from our panel. We have Lyndon and David and Josh and Claudia, and also if Mark wants to add questions too, always open to weaving those in too. Let me turn over to the panel and Catherine and other colleagues on the panel.
Mark.
Well, I'm just curious right out of the bat, how much weight can you lift and how many gallons can you lift? And, you know, like that's my biggest concern is, can you lift enough water to have an impact?
We lift the same amount as the traditional helicopters used by the Swedish MSB, the fire brigades and so on. So we can carry up to 400 kilo of water, and we're flying 5 at a time. So there is 2,000 liters of water or 2 cubic meters of water in each group of systems flying. And if you look on the traditional helicopters, they carry exactly the same amount, between 300 and 500 liters. And if you go up on the big ones, but then we're talking money, and there are not so many of them, then you can come up to maybe 1,000 or 1,500. We come up to 1,500 by using the swarm technology, using 5 systems carrying 300 to 400 liters each.
Are you selling the hardware, the drones themselves, or are you a service provider?
We are both. We think that we need to be a service provider until the market has learned to use this type of new technology. And we have a partnership with the Canadian company Fireswarm. So both, yes.
If I wanted to buy 5 of them to maximize the impact, what would you charge for that?
If you want to buy 5 of them, I would say it would be in the range of $4 to $5 million US.
Total between all of them.
Yeah.
And how does that compare to existing options that are aviation vehicles? Although I get that you save on manpower, so I get that piece of the equation.
Yeah, we are actually looking at, we have done the calculation on how much it costs to distribute 1 liter of water. And we are cheaper than any other comparable helicopter of any size. And But the main thing is, and I emphasize this once again, the main thing is that we fly 24/7. When you come back in the morning with traditional aircraft and helicopters, 70% of the wildfire is back, and you start to hunt the fire again. We never give the fire a chance to come back. We just continue to bomb, to bomb, to bomb, to bomb, and you never let it come back. So that's the main difference.
Is there sensors or ways for it to know that it's not flying directly in fire in order to get to the target?
Yes, there are several sensors in working together with the AI software. There are thermal cameras, there are LiDAR system, radar system, cameras, etc., etc. So the level of autonomy is high, and it will be higher and higher as the experience comes from different fire suppressions.
Bruce, before we have you join in, we do have some experts that are part of the panel. I just want to see if any of them want to ask a question first.
David Severisi or other members of the panel, do you have a question?
I'll ask a quick question. What is the endurance on that? And then also, I don't know if I missed it, but what are you looking to get as far as money, or what are your needs, from this group specifically?
We are looking for 10 to 15 million US dollars to get the series production up and started from the 1st of January. We want to build a pre-series of 10 units, and from there we will start to provide service and also deliver. And everything is ready to start. The new production facility for aircraft production is in place. We are right now building 3 in order to learn how to make series production of aircrafts, because these are aircrafts. And the performance or the one that you see right now can carry it can fly 5 hours without payload. With 300 liters of water, you can fly 1.5 hours. So you can fly 1.5 hours with 5 systems in swarm and distribute 1.5 cubic meters of water. And you can continue for a couple of hours, since when you've loaded the system, it doesn't take so much gas anymore.
We're out of time, but what's the power source? Fuel or electric?
The power source is a jet engine, a gas turbine from PBS in Czechia with 240 horsepower. It can go up to 300 if you want to carry 500 liters or more.
Okay. I'm sorry, there's a zillion questions in my mind, but if you're flying over homes, are the jet engines going to damage the homes underneath it, or have you?
No.
Okay.
It's less problem than with the ordinary helicopters that you normally use for this type of fire suppression, since we actually distribute the power from 4 rotor systems, and we have a split exhaust system spreading the exhaust. So it's less than a traditional helicopter.
Love what you're doing. Norma and I would like to help you. Please send your deck directly to mark@venturestarters.com. I'd like to see this one. Claudia, who's next?
Yay, handing back to Claudia.
Okay, we have next is Don Ertz, founder of Wildfire.
You're also going to look for Jeff's deck, right? And so
Yeah, we're emailing. We're going to try to upload it.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you from across the Atlantic. Let me share my screen. Yes, so I'm the founder of Wildfire, and we are a wildfire intelligence platform. What we do is we help wildfire teams with data aggregation, analysis, and communication. We started this year, so January 2024, and we're now serving 9 organizations in 6 countries in Europe. And like I already mentioned, we're based in the Netherlands. Yeah, so the business that we are in is in Europe increasingly being seen as important. It's like having the knowledge of what a fire wants to do and what it can do is increasingly seen as being an essential part of fighting fires effectively. I think all of the European people in this chat will know, in this group will know who we're looking at. It's Mark Castelnu, and he's really advocating this in Europe. Yeah, so the problem that we're solving is that there's so much interesting innovation happening in the wildfire space, but most fire departments lack the capability to just access basic data. So last year we started interviewing dozens of wildfire experts throughout Europe. And what we noticed is that most of them are just still using the same data sources as maybe surfers are using, or you are using when you're leaving your house and you want to see if there's going to be a shower. So this is super inefficient. So what we notice is that many of these teams, just to make simple and repetitive reports, takes them 20 hours each week. And 80% of that time is spent on just copy pasting graphs and maps. So from there we started building, because the bigger problem is that some teams do the copy pasting. Most teams in Europe, they just even don't have access at all. They don't have the manpower to get this wildfire intelligence in their team. So we have built a platform that just absorbs all the data that our customers need, and it processes it and it just hooks it up precisely to their workflow. And so that's, I think, what we are extremely good at. It's also what our background is just really understanding the workflows of these teams. So we now have 72 data sources combined from 38 different vendors, both commercial and non-commercial. And so like every week we are adding new layers of information to anyone who wants to access this. We have a very intuitive interface that works like all the way from having a small mobile phone in your pocket or to the big screen in your operations room. And so we offer this product as a SaaS subscription. Some highlights that we're happy with are that we have strategic partnerships with two main providers of wildfire analysis education in the EU. So this means that as countries are seeing that they need to grow this expertise in their teams, they are usually going to, for example, Spain, Italy, or Portugal to teach their firefighters about this. So we see these partnerships as super essential, that these firefighters come home in their countries, like, for example, my country, the Netherlands, or in Germany. And rather than having to set up this infrastructure themselves, they just have it because they've seen how the education institutions do it. So far, we're completely bootstrapped. We have support from the European Space Agency and FireRes, which is a European consortium. And our future vision, which we're super excited about, is to become this almost like a marketplace platform for all this hardware and software that's coming out. And we see our role as being able to connect that with the workflow of these everyday wildfire managers. This is our team. It's me, I'm the CEO. Joost is my partner, he's the CTO. And our call out for this group is one, we love talking to people in fire management teams and understanding their problems, challenges, and contexts better. So if you are, or if you know, and I'm sure that there are many here, people from these wildfire management teams, we'd love to get connected and just have short chats and start understanding the US context better, so that we might expand to it next year. We are also planning a pre-seed round. We're profitable with the small team that we have, but we might want to grow because we see a need to be able to participate in these larger government tenders. For this, we will need a more substantial team. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here, and looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Does the panel have any questions at this point? Warm welcome, and thank you so much for sharing. This is really exciting.
Dan, I'd like to learn more about your customers. one of the things that comes up for many is that they can be overwhelmed by data. So how has been the experience of helping them move from sort of the copy paste and sort of the slow slog into a position where they have enough data, but might also start moving into too much data? How do you help them work through that?
Yeah, so one experience that we've seen with one of our customers is that so their level of automation was that they come into the office in the morning, they have a mug of coffee, and then they have a shortcut to open 50 different tabs at the same time. And then they have to sort of click tab by tab and sort of try to interpret what's going on. And we have now succeeded in, so now there's a tab called Wildfire, and we've succeeded in cutting down 30 of those 50 tabs. And so we're working super hard to, like, by the end of this calendar year, to have that down to just 1 or 2 tabs, and preferably just one Wildfire. So, and that's it. And it's what we find super important there is that we design all of our data in such a way that, the Wildfire analyst can dig deeper and get into all the nitty-gritty, but someone who's maybe less trained, or maybe sort of his expertise is not in analysis, but maybe, for example, an incident commander, he can just look at a graph, look at a map, and just see all the very easy to understand, dials. Is it red? Is it green? Is it yellow? So that's our business. Thank you for your question.
What's your biggest challenge getting this sold into the market?
The biggest challenge is, I would say, it's so we're selling to governments, and so we often see that our clients are super excited, but the contracts are like handed out 2 levels higher, and that's where we are not talking yet, and we see that we need to expand to be able to compete in these tenders.
Is there a lot of work on your team once you sell the software to a customer, or can you give this away for free for a year or 2 so everybody gets used to it, and then start charging after it's proven and the whole industry shifts to it?
That's what we're doing with these education providers, is that anyone who participates in their education programs comes back home with 6 months free of Wildfire.
Are you using the money that you're going to raise for marketing and sales, or is it for further product development?
About 50-50.
Okay. So if you actually brought somebody onto your team who actually knew how to talk to your existing future customers because they've been selling into them already, you might not need to raise as much money because you already have the person that can do that, or the people who could do that. It may just be that you need to recruit the right people on the sales side, or a commercial revenue officer, to help sort of expedite or accelerate. Are you selling in the US or just in Europe right now?
We're completely focused on Europe so far, and perhaps this talk will be sort of the like an opening moment for us to start our conversations with the US.
Okay, and is it the same software, identical, that would be deployed in the US than what you have in Europe? Is there any reason
Yes.
to change?
Yes, we're already deeply integrated with, for example, North American weather forecasting and satellite providers.
So if there's anybody in our audience that wants to be chief commercial officer here in the USA and basically scale up this company here with new customers, it seems like you should be in communications and talking to this company. Is there anybody else who has questions?
Lyndon?
Josh, Catherine, Claudia.
Lyndon does, I think.
Go ahead, Lyndon.
Yeah. Hi, Dan. Thanks for your presentation. I was just kind of curious. Well, first of all, I'm one of those guys that always has like tabs open. So I really appreciate the value of this solution. I think it's really necessary. And my question is, how do you differentiate yourself and your services from some of the other, providers out there like TechnoSilva or Aurora Tech, which is also now branching out into the space?
Yeah, those are exactly the sort of the 2 main players that we, at this point, have to say we look up against. So the biggest differentiator is that we have it's just pricing. So we can sell directly to the people that we are that this product is going to be used by. So we're not selling to someone for 20 million contracts. We're selling at thousands of euros a year. So that's the biggest differentiator. And yeah, we'll have to see what Aurora Tech is going to do with their new 25 million round.
Hey, Tana Silva here. Just want to say, I think it's not only pricing, because I don't think you are doing new models on your side and all that. But yeah, kudos. I mean, it looks really nice. I would like to open some conversation. But yeah, it's nice.
Gracias, Joaquin.
Perfect. Meet in the chat. That's what, in fact, if you're new and you just arrived in the last 20 minutes, open up your chat. That's where all the communications are taking place. And it's really great that we still have almost 150 people here going into hour 2. I love that you're all hanging in there. We have a lot more amazing people about to pitch, so hang in there. Claudia?
Next on deck is Valkyrie Holmes, CEO of Fora. Take it away, Valkyrie.
Let me just share my screen. All right. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Valkyrie Holmes, co-founder and CEO of Fora. And I wanted to show you a little something that we all are quite familiar with, but just to kind of set the stage, this is a very famous picture from the Lahaina wildfire out of Maui. Entire communities decimated, neighborhoods burnt to the ground. And these people are still reeling from the effects of these disasters over a year later, with thousands of people losing some of their most valuable assets, except one in this neighborhood. So this property not only survived, but it still had green vegetation surrounding it. It had a metal roof and masonry siding, both elements that helped protect it from wildfire. It had defensible space immediately around the property, and it was well maintained, and it was the only one in its neighborhood to make it. Now, these all seem fairly self-explanatory to all of us, but for the average insurance professional, would they have been able to tell the difference here, for example? Now, I want to introduce you to Fora. We are a property analytics tool that not only helps insurance companies place more property business, more profitable business in higher risk areas, but helps policyholders reduce their risk and stay profitable. So our goal is to close the protection gap here. We've already performed thousands of assessments in every state nationwide, partnering with companies like Liberty Mutual, Capital Insurance, and Realtor.com. It's time to start thinking differently about property risk. A lot of people ask us all the time, why are we so focused on survival? Well, because that is what directly relates to profitability. Understanding which properties are most likely to survive the next disaster tells us one of two things: which structures are most high margin business that we can add to our books, and then which structures will result in more of a total loss. Now, a lot of players in the space use satellite or aerial imaging solely to place risk, both methods that have capacity to leave a lot of valuable information behind. You see, when you ping a third-party climate model today, you're typically getting the likelihood that a disaster will happen in a given area. But that largely isn't actionable from a structure standpoint, and really doesn't give a lot of context to the property itself, ruling out entire areas of risk and reducing some of the most profitable business in the game. Our tool also minimizes the need for in-person inspections, which are both time-consuming and costly, delivering really not a lot of valuable information to a homeowner or commercial operator. It also isn't scalable due to the fact that this is a supply and demand problem. Way more high-risk properties and not nearly enough of a specialized workforce to get us the data we need. And I would know, because my co-founder and I literally became certified home and disaster inspectors before starting our company. We are the only disaster analytics tool on the market that gives insurance companies the data they need to expand their books of business by turning property characteristics into actionable insights and tangible value. We built a proprietary model from the ground up that assesses everything from on-the-ground building data to permits and materials, conditions, and resilience characteristics historically found to withstand some of the most common perils we face on a day-to-day basis. If you need to learn more about a property's risk factor, simply type in an address with our Fora quick assessment or send out a digital inspection with our primary tool, where you get pictures and videos from the policyholder in less than 10 minutes that better illustrate the survivability of the property. Now, for this company back in Napa Valley, their time from inspection request to completion without Fora was nearly 3 weeks. In that same time, underwriters could have bound over 300 policies. But in one summer, we knocked that down to 72 hours and unlocked over $600,000 in available premium. So that means more people got insurance, more business for the company, and those properties are still standing nearly 2 years later in high-risk areas. We've unlocked hundreds of thousands of dollars in risk reduction benefits for policyholders and our existing customers, some of which are probably people on this call. I think I saw a few in the list. And they are on the cutting edge of risk management with a dedication to resilience that we really need to bring further to the insurance industry. We service 5 different perils. So we service wildfire, but also hurricane, hail, flood, and earthquake, delivering a full suite of climate tools every single time. We recently won the State Farm Pitch Competition down at ITC in Vegas a couple weeks ago, as well as the Guidewire Insure Pitch Competition. So if anyone will be at the Guidewire Connections Conference in a week, we will be there. So feel free to reach out. And our team has spent a combined 30 years in insurance and data science, building applications still used by millions of underwriters today. My background is in data science with NASA and SpaceX. A co-founder has previously built for Apple, Target, Godiva, and more. And our founding engineer has been building scalable enterprise software for the last 14 years. And it's in uniting the two of climate and insurance where we're going to make real meaningful change. And the last thing I'll say here is just to really imagine the possibilities, not just in insurance, but in all of our different sectors. In real estate, helping professionals understand their survivability during the buying and selling process. What about banking and lending, where 40% of people default on their loans in the case of a natural disaster? The insurability of properties is becoming more and more transparent and important for every industry involved. And we're pioneering in this new space of resilience in a way that's already impacting millions every single year. The possibilities are endless. So I look forward to connecting with you offline. And the last thing I'll leave you with is, at our core, we are preparing the homes of today for the disasters of tomorrow. And we're not only helping insurance companies place more business, but helping residents just like you find affordable policies in areas that would have been uninsurable. Thank you so much.
It looks fantastic.
No, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, it looks fantastic. I might have missed it. What do you need?
Oh yeah, that's right.
And clock. There we go.
I mean, yeah, the biggest thing for us is really connections to other insurance company clients, but then also other partnerships with solutions providers. So really for us, distribution is key. So helping people get more access, whether it's policyholders or insurance companies, to these tools to help them mitigate their risk is always top of mind for us.
And so you don't need investment or anything of that nature. Your product is already developed. You're set. Okay.
Yeah, we just closed our seed round, so
Yay.
just got out of that.
Okay, very impressive, I have to say. So definitely, I don't know if we have anybody in the insurance industry in the room or not, but this does sound like it makes a lot of sense. How much do you charge homeowners?
From the insurance sector, write a comment, Mark, in the chat. Ashish is here from the insurance sector and offered some feedback in the chat on the presentation, but I didn't mean to cut you off, Mark. Please go ahead. I just wanted to add.
Well, how much are you charging a consumer that's, interested in using this to get insurance?
Yeah, so we're typically working with the insurance company directly. So we're not directly charging the consumer anything. We're typically a data company. So if we're working with an insurance company, usually we're being contracted by them to gain data about what the risk of the property is. And then as a function of working with us, the policyholder gets their own free assessment that helps them reduce the risk on their property. So inherently, we're saying if a policyholder is reducing their risk, it directly relates to the profitability of the insurer because they're reducing the risk to the insurance company. So it's
But if somebody gets turned down, do they get to find out why? Is that part of your model? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So when it
comments, go ahead.
So with your customers, of course, I hear what you're saying about the insurance companies. It makes a lot of sense. But say, for example, in California, you have a community which is in a high-risk area. Would a homeowners association or other group be able to get together and be able to discover their risk at scale and use that in the inverse direction, use that to be able to go to the insurance company and talk about what they can do to mitigate risk or reduce risk?
Yeah, that was actually the first kind of entrance into this space was through HOAs in large communities that had a lot of wildfire specific risk. So that's actually how we got involved with crowd doing in the first place. So selling to HOAs in terms of almost like a mitigation management kind of product where everyone completes their assessment, we aggregate the data, and then we give a full report that helps agents and people applying for insurance to make the better case. I think what we found with that process is that yes, we have the capacity to work with HOAs directly, but we really want to create this like incentive structure and benefits network that allows them to directly kind of benefit from that work year over year. And so insurance is kind of the way that we've managed to do that. And we're partnering with HOAs as a function of applying for like commercial HOA and condo insurance. But that's kind of, we have the capacity to do both. We've just seen more success with the latter.
Other questions or comments from our panel? Lyndon or David Green, or further questions from Claudia or other members?
I have one. If no one else does, I have one. I was just curious, Valkyrie, congratulations. It's super exciting. I think, what, this week you closed? So, yeah, tell me if I read it right. I thought one of your customers is Liberty Mutual, and I was curious, one, how you have that, but the other thing is you're in a different model compared to like a Side and Madronas and all. And can you help us understand like how that's working and how that gives you an edge and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the biggest differentiating factor between us and other companies that are kind of like focused on mitigation but are in the climate tech space is this idea of kind of like structure resilience. So the majority of like climate models that currently exist are giving you a general area, and we don't really blame them for that. That's kind of what insurance companies have always used. We really haven't needed to innovate much in property insurance until the last decade or so, where now we're incurring massive losses year over year. So I think climate models are a really big, important part of assessing risk, but it doesn't really give us the individual structure components of the property we're actually trying to gain, conviction around putting on our books. So I think the biggest like gap that we're filling right now is a lot of that manual data collection that happens in that step 2 of underwriting, where they're looking at building permits and Google Street View and Zillow and Realtor.com listings. Like it's this whole aggregation of stuff that they need to look for to gain confidence about a particular property that we can then put through this analytical lens and say, these are the different raw elements. This is what it means in terms of how this factors into profitability. And that connection is where we've been able to make a lot of meaningful change.
We're going to need to move on. I'm
Okay.
sorry to interrupt, but we've exhausted the 5 minutes and the 5 minutes. But thank you, because that was a fantastic pitch. Love what you're doing as a company.
Thank you.
Claudia.
So we go to the next one then. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Valkyrie, for sharing, and looking forward to all of the further questions folks have in the chat to be further weaves. But handing over to Claudia for next.
Okay, so we are going back to Strongwater. Jeffrey Denholm, I'm gonna operate the PowerPoint. Okay. So,
Thank you. Teamwork.
yeah,
Makes
that's
the
why you
dream
had a
work.
backup plan for you. Okay. Yeah, you
Appreciate
never
that.
know.
So slide
Yeah.
number 1 has a helicopter on it.
Yeah, hang on one sec. Just one sec. Okay, here we go. Just clear my screen. It's like command control here. Well, that's the wrong one. How to do this one? Okay.
I have this proprietary Brave browser that might have blocked it. Oh, that's not it.
That's not it?
No,
Hmm.
that's somebody else's.
I thought you said oceans. Okay. We'll come back.
Tech.
Sorry about that. All right,
Where
we're gonna
is it?
come back. Whoa. I'm gonna stop sharing. Okay, so sorry about that. I'll go
It was
back
in
to
an email. The last email I sent you, it was a file.
Okay. So we'll go back. I'll try some more. Next on deck is Daniel Dalton, founder of Solaris Suborbital.
Hi, thanks for welcoming me today, and thanks to Josh as well. I think he's online. And just a disclosure, Josh is an expert advisor to us on our XPRIZE team. Here we go. Okay. Well, Solaris is a Earth intelligence company. We gather live intelligence for use in those managing natural disasters or national security. And before we get in there, we're a suborbital platform, which means we dwell and live in this new layer of geospatial data, if you like, that's between orbital space satellites and airplanes. So let me show you what that looks like first. Let's go on a little ride, shall we, and see what suborbital feels like. So this is my team putting together a solar-powered plane, a solar-powered glider. And you'll see it's very simple in terms of its takeoff and its operation. And at this point onwards, it's totally autonomous. So this is an unmanned aerial vehicle. It carries a suite of sensors. And as you'll see, it's totally solar powered so that it can persist up in suborbital space for months at a time and ultimately years. The design is very innovative. My co-founder has developed the previous two platforms in operation. The first one is with Airbus Zephyr. See the solar panels here. And the second one, his team design, is with British Aerospace Systems. This third generation was actually designed with the UK government, with the mapping agency, the Ordnance Survey, and was designed for high precision data gathering for very long range missions and for very low cost. And consequently, we have a very versatile heavy lift platform that's capable of flying sensors and other instruments, as I was mentioning, for months at a time, if not years. So where do we sit? As you saw from that video, that is a plane, solar-powered glider with 2 electric motors. And it sits in this unique space called suborbital space, which is around 60 to 70,000 feet, or 20 kilometers, way below where satellites live. And as you can see, satellites have the natural problem of having to fall around the Earth at very high speed, around 17,000 miles an hour. The consequence is they can only take a snapshot of the scene as they fly by. Whereas if you look at us, we sit below that, not only a lot closer, but we can generate real-time video in very high resolution. And the numbers on the right give you the idea of the gain that we get. So typically a satellite may have, over a scene, it might have roughly 10 scenes a day over a specific area of interest. So imagine a natural disaster is very, very low refresh. And they cost more than $200 per square kilometer, the sort of resolutions we're talking about. In contrast, we're sourcing video, which gives you more than 750,000 scenes in that same day, and we cost less than $10 per square kilometer. So much, much richer data product and far cheaper, much lower cost for users here. And the problem is very simple. The problem we're solving for is what's called the observation gap. The gap between not only resolution, but also time between these existing layers, the geospatial data layers today. So space layers, satellites suffer from that. Planes can only cover certain areas and they're very expensive for their coverage. And drones are very, very useful, but they don't have the same range as we do. So who are we for? Well, it's really about being able to serve those who need to know right now. You know, if you're tackling the world's toughest problems, whether it's in climate change, security, or defense, every moment counts. And so we're for today's planet stewards, the people trying to protect and guard our natural resources and our health and safety, but also the nation's guardians trying to look after our national interests, both inside our borders, but also at our borders. Let me be very specific about where we are, because I'm talking to a fire community and where we fit. Well, if you can imagine today, wildfires, as we know, require at least 3 distinct phases of service, and we can cover all 3. So in the very first phase, before the season of fire happens, we can provide the risk maps or the hotspot detection by, say, for instance, in this case, flying hyperspectral cameras or synthetic aperture radar. And it allows us to identify things like fuel stock levels, conditions, and other important factors that will calculate or better estimate your risk. The second phase is actually during the fire itself, which is typically the detect and triage. So early detection is king here. And typically we can start detecting something the size of a barbecue within about 10, 11 minutes of it igniting. And we can provide a live video stream of that so that you can manage that well. And the lastly is obviously in post-fire. We spoke about this earlier. It's all about being able to successfully regenerate that ecosystem so that it's safe and healthy. Just to put this in context, if you were to look at California, roughly 52 of our gliders would provide 24/7 persistent surveillance of all fires and detectable, something, as I said, about the size of a barbecue in a few minutes. And that's essential for fire crews so that they can correctly triage and decide where to deploy resources between good fires, bad fires, And if you put this capability together, it isn't just about detection, which is that green layer. It's also about providing what we call a common operating picture. So by flying not just a thermal imager, but a radar product, not only can we see the fires, but we can also tell you at scale what's moving, what's happening in this scene. So we can detect everything from ground level craft, people, animals, objects, drones, helicopters, planes, etc. And give finally people who are operating in natural disasters complete disclosure as to what's operating in their theater of operation. And the last layer, the red one at the bottom, is the one which allows us to also help close the gap again in observation. Our live data can be fed straight into the very complex and very powerful predictive models that there are out there and take them from, for instance, taking satellite data that might be 2 hours old to stuff that is literally a few seconds ago as a feed to them. So again, that improves the quality of prediction and improves the quality and capability of natural disaster response teams in all areas. Just to give you a sense of the capability of the sensors, this is working with our partner. What you see there on the right in this image is a capability from just one of our platforms to, at the red box, map fire fronts. So that's roughly 50-odd thousand square kilometers. We can see that. But if you want to see something about 5 meter squares, roughly 2 and a bit meters, then you're about 7,300 square kilometers. And if you go to the very tight parameters, which is actually XPRIZE, you may not see it so well, but it's that purple square in the middle, an incipient fire, then that's roughly 2,000 square kilometers in real time. So that gives you a sense of the capability for us to provide live awareness. If you couple this with the radar product, whom we're working with, a spin out of NASA, they provide an amazing capability to see in 3D, not just terrain, but what's critical is they can see the rate of consumption of fuel stock and give a very good indication for the rate of progress of the fire and where the fire front is. People often forget that once the fire starts, it's very hard to see through the smoke, the clouds, the canopy and foliage around it. And lastly, by being able to see everything in 3D space, we can create a very powerful real-time common operating picture and simplify the different information sources and how they're interpreted. And lastly, it won't surprise you that we aren't just a platform, as I promised you. We are an intelligence company, and we do process data. I have a background in AI. My co-founder is an expert in suborbital platforms. And to give you a sense of it there, we have a data processing chain that allows us to not only take our live data, but ingest data from satellites, drones, sensors on the ground. And by processing it, we can create different data products for different users in that community. And at the last point on the right, where there's consumption, the green box, where typically in this case, say, fire operations crew are making decisions, we will learn from that and be able to improve the way we operate our mission. And as I promised you, last two things, my co-founder, Andy Elson, is very experienced. In fact, not only did he design, as I mentioned earlier, and develop the 2 other platforms in operation, but he was also consulted and designed, say, for instance, the SpaceX Crew Dragon space modules. He's flown people around the world and around the world balloons like Steve Fossett and the Brightening Around the World Orbiter. So, and the last bit on the right is me. So without any further ado, thank you very much for your time. The last point, which I think was requested, is what's our ask? Very simple. We are a seed stage fund. Although we have 10 years and 10 million and 4 years behind us through our relationship with the UK government, we have restructured the whole program, and we are raising 5 million in a safe note. That's a seed round. We are about 3/4 complete, so would be very interested in hearing from anyone who'd like to support our suborbital venture. Thank you.
I want to express gratitude for you sharing it. That was fascinating. And I also want to acknowledge that there's multiple questions folks were asking in the chat along the way. And I want to turn to our panel to see if they or Mark have questions pending most ready. I do want to acknowledge for my own part that the idea of where we can anticipate the risk, the vulnerability at a human level and landscape level has multiple fractals. And I think that getting ahead of that risk matters. We've seen other research around the human level that there's a subpopulation of serial arson that have a risk of 10 times, 20 times serial arson. That's a human population at high risk. It sounds like y'all have gotten to the point where wildfire agencies can get ahead of the wildfire risk curve by assessing and detecting and having situational awareness in a faster feedback loop, which is marvelous. Let me see if we have questions or comments from our panel.
We're gonna have to speed through because his presentation was almost 10 minutes long, so we kind of
My
almost
apologies.
we literally used up the entire clock on your presentation. I'm just sort of curious, are these devices flying in circles? You showed a map with like 50 circles.
Yes.
Basically, they're just circling around? Is that it?
Yeah, they can transit thousands of kilometers, but when they hold station, they just fly in a very flat circle and observe that area for you.
And what's your payload that you can build on it?
Okay, starting at 12 kilograms and going up to mid-20s, depending on the configuration.
And I mean, have you put one up in the air to prove it out, or is this still?
Yep, that was what the video was at the outset. That was us flying 4 years ago. And post redevelopment restructuring, we're just starting our final test campaign as we speak in Spain.
And the one that you actually built, how long did it actually, were you able to actually keep it up there endlessly?
No, we've not on a test platform. We haven't done that. That'll happen next year because we have a new energy system that has doubled our capacity. But yes, it's pre-proven in the previous 2 generations that they're capable of doing 60 to 90 days continuous flight.
Okay, very interesting. It's very similar to what Justin is working on. Different idea, but very similar. Just because your presentation went so long, if you could put your information in the chat so everybody who has a question can reach out to you directly, that would probably be best so we can, keep the event moving forward because we still have a bunch of people to pitch.
Thank you very much.
In that case, Claudia, do you want to go to the next one on agenda, and we can weave further perspective from panel in chat. And thank you so much for sharing that, Daniel.
And if the rest of those that are pitching, if you can try and keep an eye on the 5-minute clock, it'll just make life easier on us so that we can try and manage our event and keep the audience. So thank you.
Great. Our next person is Rolf Wenzel, CEO, Wildfire Innovations, Inc.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Venture Starters and the CWPC for inviting us. I'm going to share my screen here. That's showing up properly?
Yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, again, my name is Rolf Wenzel with Wildfire Innovations of Calgary, Canada. We are looking at a problem that is a big one for frontline firefighters, ember transfer over their heads, which go thousands of yards and even miles downwind. Our solution is patent pending range stream mobile towers. They telescope up to 100 feet, and it turns wind from an enemy into an ally. We're actually turning hydrants, ponds, or rivers into rainfall on demand. And we're trying to fill a huge gap between ground sprinklers, which are very labor intensive and don't cover a lot of area, and aircraft, which obviously can get to remote spots quickly, but can't fly in all conditions and are hugely expensive. Each of our towers can protect 10 to 20 acres per location. And if we're looking at insured losses in urban areas, about 3 million an acre, we're protecting $30 to $60 million worth of insured assets in the wildland urban interface market, which is sort of where we're targeting. So a single unit would pay for itself 60 times on its first day of application. We're enabling proactive microclimate management. A small breeze of 10 to 12 miles an hour will give you hundreds of yards of misting and deliver 10 millimeters of rainfall in under 2 hours. And this allows communities to build like a protected biodome over their communities. Our founder, Don Hallett, he's a mechanical savant, and he was twice evacuated from wildfires as a child, and that burned in his mind. So after a successful career managing large field projects, he decided to take this challenge on, and for the last 8+ years, he's been working on rain towers. My background is in multiple startups, geophysical services, software, and high-tech manufacturing with a couple of happy exits. Dale Hansen, our EVP, he seems to know everyone on the planet, has built 8-figure revenue companies globally, and I call him our CMO, our Chief Magic Officer, because he's always pulling rabbits out of a hat. Dave Anderson is our VP Business Development, Energizer Bunny, and has had launched 2 previous technologies. Great guy. Brian McIntosh, former BC Wildfire Superintendent, has had over 500 career wildfires, and he's consulted in the US, Argentina, Australia, and Asia. Cecil Hassard is our manufacturing guru. He runs a company that manufactures extreme environment oil field equipment and exports globally. He's helped us with the engineering and fabrication of the first system. Over 50 million homes are in the wildland-urban interface in the US, and if we're looking to just Western Canada and the Pacific Northwest, we're looking at a TAM of about 1.1 billion. We're targeting regional fire agencies, municipalities, corporations, utilities with critical assets to protect, and Aboriginal nations who are some of whom are very vulnerable. Just 6 days ago, we had our world premiere demonstration here in Alberta with our first unit, and we're happily bearing, I guess, looking at the fruits of that right now, getting inquiries every few hours. We had national news coverage, 50 million reach, and it seems to be paying off. So we're literally drinking from a fire hose in the last 5 days here. We have LOIs, letters of intent signed with field testing partnerships with several communities, agencies, and corporations. And our go-to-market is Western Canada, manufacturing and sales. And then Q1, we want to move into the US Pacific Northwest and California. We have a manufacturing alliance lined up out of Houston, Texas. And after that, we'll be going international. Our revenue model, equipment sales, we come in at about half the price of a deluxe municipal fire engine. We also have a rental model, and capital recovery on those should be under 70 days. We're conservatively estimating 3 units per month next year and 7 units per month the following year. That'll generate revenue of 11.2 million Canadian, about 8 million US. Our gross margin is about 46%. And we're seeking 1.5 million via SAFE at a 7.5 million valuation with a 100K minimum. Most of that money is going to go to manufacturing initial units and marketing and sales launch. And David Bisu is our business liaison. Feel free to connect with him. Thanks for your time, and I'm happy to take questions.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. One question while the panel is getting ready their questions is, what are the regions in which this is applicable in terms of the landscape being appropriate for this approach to be innovative and helpful?
Yeah, we're wildland urban interface, so relatively flat places. We don't have phase 2 would be more of a wildland type steep slope thing, but it's fairly flat in near urban areas.
Terrific. Does the panel have questions pending?
Well, I have one quick one, which is like, at what wind speed does this no longer work? Because sometimes the winds are so severe leading in and fueling a fire and you're going to have to be on the side of the wind before the fire gets to which means that the fire is going to literally run right into your equipment theoretically. So,
yeah,
I'm
fantastic question.
Okay, so what about the wind speed? Does it eventually become not usable?
Right, it runs at 30 feet, 60 feet, 80 feet, or 100 feet. And at 100 feet, it's 50 miles an hour. At 60 feet, it is 80 miles an hour. And 30 feet, we don't know, but it's higher.
And do you have a way of testing whether it prevents a fire from actually igniting on where your mist is going? Or here in Southern California, for example, when we get the dry Santa Ana winds, literally water just evaporates, maybe even before it hits the ground. So if your mist is so small and micro, then I don't even know if it even gets to the ground.
Yeah, great point. We put out 1,000 gallons a minute, and the plan is really here to say, okay, go into a community and you've got a playbook, and the playbook says, here's your RH, here's your wind speed. If you want to be proactive, here's the frequency at which you would reapply. If you're in a reactive mode, obviously, you would increase the density and overlap of the towers.
Is this something that fire departments could purchase and use and deploy somehow as part of their strategy, or are you counting on homeowners association type communities to somehow want to have this? I'm just trying to understand who's going to be your buyer, your customer.
Yeah, it'd be regional fire agencies and municipalities.
Can you talk about sort of the deployment installation time, or how quickly can these be moved? I heard you mention there could be a rental business model as part of this, which makes sense that if people are moving it to the highest risk locations, and then once that's done, move it onwards. How long does this setup take?
Less. We've done it in 20 minutes. We figure you can get it down to 10 minutes. You know, you get into these competitive modes, so like a Formula One pit crew. But basically, we're budgeting, say, 20 minutes setup, 20 minutes tear down, and then it can be towed with a 1-ton dually pickup, so can move around fairly quickly.
Is there a concern that you're taking away water resources that the fire department needs to pull off of the same plumbing?
Well, it's part of we're another tool in the toolkit. You have to make a decision. Do you want a little pumper pulling off it, or do you want something that covers 20 acres? So as part of whatever the strategy is, we try to fit into that. Also, from the water management perspective, we haven't tried foams and gels yet, but we can try different pressures and nozzle configurations.
I mean, could you be putting a fire retardant down instead?
Yes.
I mean, because that to me makes more sense than trying, and hopefully it's heavier and will at least reach the ground.
Right.
Question. In Southern California, we have the Santa Anas. So if you're using these when there's a fire going on, sometimes we have very strong Santa Anas going on at that time. How secure will they be to stand up and not topple over and maybe damage your property?
Yeah, well, in operating mode, as I said, depending on the height you select, you can leave it there in an 80-mile-an-hour wind if it's not operating, and also if you change the nozzle angle, which is adjustable, and you're not blowing with the wind, again, that affects how much wind you can tolerate.
And how will it secure to the ground while it's really windy? I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, sorry, it's got outriggers and guy lines that deploy.
It looks totally cool. I just hope it works, because I worry that the liquid isn't going to make it into the right spots when you're relying on wind, especially erratic winds that change direction and are all over the map. But it's very interesting, and I do like I haven't seen this before. Thank you very much for bringing it to us. We are out of time for Q&A, so we're going to keep moving on. I want to thank
Claudia has our next one to present. I just also want to acknowledge that there have been multiple other wildfire social ventures who've said hi in the chat. Please note that Claudia and our colleagues will be sharing again the link for folks to nominate their social venture for a subsequent round of wildfire social entrepreneur presentations here, which we're looking forward to including many of the extraordinary things I've been hearing about in the chat that I was not aware of, in addition to the wonderful set of ones that we are aware of. So let me hand back to Claudia for the next one in the spirit of that, but just wanted to acknowledge that, and didn't mean to cut you off, Mark, if you wanted to say something else, but just wanted to add that.
Just two quick comments, because we're now starting our third hour, and I don't know how much longer we'll be going, but I appreciate that all of you are still here. And after we finish with those that are pitching, I think we're going to open up the conversation to anybody who wants to talk about anything related to fire, and we'll see how long that lasts. So hang in there if you've been itching to make a comment and get some video time. The other thing I just want to say is this is the first of many, and we're going to lean into wildfire mitigation, and I love how successful this event has already turned out to be. Way more successful than I was actually anticipating as a first-time effort. And between Norma, Bobby, and Claudia and I, we're going to keep putting on some really great events. I hope you guys will all continue to keep showing up. Claudia, who's next?
Okay, Jeff Denholm, I hope I have your presentation this time.
It says strong water on the cover there, so that should be
Am I still, yeah, Strongwater.
okay.
Yeah, I think I got it this time, you
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway, it's not worth the explanation, but I think we're there. Okay,
Teamwork makes the dream work.
let me share. I didn't give up on you, so here we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, hang on. All right, are we there?
There it is. Well, thank you to the consortium for this opportunity. My name is Jeff Denholm, and I'm a recently retired wildland firefighter. Been fighting fire for 16 years in regions 5 and 6 for the U.S. Forest Service, and I can promise you I'm much more effective at fighting fire than I'm at navigating Zoom presentations. My experiences in fighting fire led me to the development of a product called Strong Water. Strong water is a water enhancer technology, which in real world terms means it's a liquid concentrate that's added to plain water to magnify its suppression capacity, its ability to adhere, stick, cling, and wrap and smother fire or protect structures and materials and vegetation from fire. We could go to slide 2. The product's designed to address 3 different. Nope, this is an old, you have to go to the next one. This is an old document I had sent. Go to the next one, go to the next one, next one. I had sent it trimmed down back. This is the wrong presentation. I'd sent you the last email. So here it is. Products are made to address 3 different classes of chemicals, class A foams and B foams. Those are ineffective. Often they're toxic, they're carcinogenic. There's big issues with PFAS. Firefighters suffer the highest rate of occupational cancer, and we want to address that. Our product replaces all A and B foams. What we're doing is providing something that smothers, wraps, clings, and suppresses fire and puts it out quickly. And exponentially, our product adds a 10x multiple to plain water and suppression capacity. And then long-term aviation retardants, that's the toxic red stuff you see being deployed from planes on the major wildfires. Right out of the bat, it's important to note that the U.S. Forest Service is being sued for the use of Phos-Chek, the toxic red stuff, for violating the Clean Water Act. Our product replaces it in typically rotary ring assets for rapid response suppression tactics on wildfire. With these big fixed-wing airplanes and the long-term retardants, it often takes them too long to respond to fires where they grow out of control into large conflagrations, where at that point, quite honestly, it's typically Mother Nature that puts the fire out. And then the water enhancer suppressant market, most of the previous generation water enhancers contained oil, they were sticky, they clogged lines and proportioning equipment, and they required expensive equipment to be used. Our product is plug and play. It works with existing proportioning systems and mix and load operation systems at fire bases for aviation use. There's no oil, so it's not slippery, and it phase changes of viscosity under pressure, so it pumps through pretty much every piece of fire apparatus we've seen. We go to what I hope is slide 3. Slide 3. Next one.
Oh, 3?
Right there. So no, the next one rather. You're the wrong one. Next one. Next one. Next one. So we just got through the U.S. Forest QPL quality products listing process, and we're going to market. We're facilitating a Series B raise of funding of $2 million to basically hire key staff, sales and marketing efforts, further R&D and manufacturing. We're seeking $1 million in a Series B equity raise, $8 million post-money valuation. We're $100K, but rise roughly 0.9% of the company. We have a third-party fiscal sponsor attached to the company where we can spend any donor money towards further R&D, third-party testing, and marketing materials, which is going to be crucial to our doing battle against these large chemical companies. So there's 2 million. We're hoping to get 1 million in equity and 1 million in donor funds. And if you could go backwards, please. Go back up. Keep going. Okay, so our projections are extremely conservative. Our product's ability to smother fire is so powerful, we're going to shrink the market. And to put the projections into perspective, on a small to average fire, 10 helicopters alone operating on a full-time flight, 8-hour shifts for a 3-week period could deploy over 2 million gallons of enhanced water. We're at an average cost of $3.75 per mixed gallon. An average fire could easily yield over 7 million in revenues. And when our product has an 88% gross margin, so the profits can add up quickly. Mind you, this is one example of a single vertical we're addressing with the product on one fire, where major wildfires are raging 12 months of the year around the world. And so, as mentioned, we're going after the Class A and B market, where every fire rate, there are 30 different fire agencies in the 30,000 fire agencies in the country. Our product's relative and viable to all those agencies for structural protection, structural suppression, and we're very relevant in the aviation sector. We could go on to the team page.
We're past the 5 minutes, but why don't you leave that up for just a second? Have you done any independent third-party tests?
Yes, we have. Not more than that. We've facilitated a 5-year pilot program with San Bernardino County Fire. We saved hundreds of structures in exposure protection. That's ground deployment from engines. And then with Erickson Aviation, we did a year's worth of aviation testing that they found our product to be most effective. They were in the process of testing different products for use in a water cannon that was going to be deployed beneath their S-64 heavy lift helicopters. So we've done the aviation and the ground. The largest private engine contractor in the country, WDS, based in Bozeman, uses our product in all their engines for structural protection at this time now.
Okay, and Claudia, if you can screen share for 1 second so we can continue with Q&A. So you have a chemical that you're adding to water, is that right?
Yes, a water enhancer,
and
for lack of a better term.
And is it a chemical or what is it? And is it patented and what is it?
We have a method patent because the principal food grade chemical in our product was not patented. It's typical in the chemistry industry. People do not provide material patents because they're a roadmap for reverse engineering. So we have a method patent, and we combined food grade chemicals to produce this product. We're very proud to say that we're the only fireground chemical that meets California's Prop 65 carcinogenic disclosure. We're also the only product in the history of the U.S. Forest Service QPL process that did not kill any fish. And we're eligible now for special use designation for aviation deployment in and around all sensitive waterways because of that. And our product does not contain PFAS, which is a big killer of firefighters in the industry.
And what do you need the money for?
We are launching the product, going to market. So we need to hire key hires, sales reps, all of my executive staff, super benevolent guys. They're contractors that have been working pro bono to date. Some of them will come on. All of them are previous firefighters, including an MBA CFO who fought fire in college and through his graduate program. Then we're looking to do further third-party testing, create videos, create marketing materials. Some of that we can apply the donor funds through the third-party fiscal sponsor for. Overhead and salaries need to be covered through the equity raise.
I'm curious why you think there's donors. Is this? Do you mean non-dilutive money like grant money, or are you?
Yeah, grant money. So we have a third-party fiscal sponsor. For example, the QPL, the Forest Service QPL process we just passed in June was a 2-year, $300,000 barrier to entry. The California Community Foundation provided grant money for us to pay for that. And we're also approved through that same third-party fiscal sponsor to apply funds to more third-party testing, more physical data, videos, and things like that. The third-party fiscal sponsor audits the expenditure of any monies that come through them.
How long does the strong water stay on the whatever material is being sprayed?
Okay, so in structural protection, it can last up to 12 hours. We're not a long-term retardant, right? Phos-Chek is a long-term retardant, and aviation is dropped on dry ground ahead of fires to control it. Well, they've doubled and tripled down on the use of that stuff in the last 16 years that I've been on the front lines fighting fire, and it's not working. So our product is made for direct attack suppression, being dropped directly on the fuel loads that are burning to knock them out. And a quick reaction is key to solving a lot of these large fires, getting to the fire, detecting them sooner, and getting them quicker. And our product is probably most effective with rotary wing assets that can mix and load at the fire front, where you can continue to drop fire, every 15 minutes, drop enhanced water every 15 minutes onto the fire.
Could it be a consumer product that attaches to a hose and then you spray on your own house?
It can be, yes. We phase change of viscosity, as mentioned. Typical proportioning systems on fire engines are very temperamental and they tend to clog. Our product does not do that, so it can be pumped through home defense systems, yes.
Okay, I mean, I have a zillion questions. I love what I'm hearing. It's really neat, and I would like to see your deck. So definitely send it to mark@venturestarters.com. And I'm sorry I used up most of our time for Q&A.
Do we have a question from panel, and then we can also return to the next, but in the
we're out of time. I think we're out of time. So
I didn't mean to use up the whole clock, but I'm fascinated by what you have because it sounds like it solves a bunch of the problems that are right now the biggest ones that I'm aware of. And, the toxicity of the solutions of today can't possibly be our future. We have to find something like what you're doing, which isn't going to create the same problems. And when I hear that fire personnel are at a higher risk of cancer because of the tools that they're using, that has to stop. So, you might have a solution that's very important.
Our key chemist was Arlene Bloom. She's the foremost mind on toxic retardants in the planet, and she was the driving force behind California's Prop 65. She's a board-certified chemist at UC Berkeley and the founder of the Green Science Policy Institute. She helped us develop this.
I want to help you. This one sounds really interesting. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Yeah, Jeff, can you also send me a connection on LinkedIn so we can get some information from you?
Will do. Thank you.
Great proposal.
But just information in the chat also, because I have a feeling a bunch of other people in the room maybe
I agree.
like we are.
Again, I apologize for the presentation snafu. I'm much better at fighting fire than I am navigating Zoom.
We want you more for that than for being a Zoom expert anyway. So
Yeah.
I totally get it. Okay, thank you so much. Let's move on. Claudia?
yeah, next up is Fire Neural Network with Dr. Istvan Karezi, sorry. CEO and co-founder.
Thank you. I will be taking Dr. Istvan Karezi's place. I'm a co-founder as well, Chief Commercial Officer. I'll go ahead and share my screen really quickly here. All right. I assume everyone can hopefully see. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for organizing such a great event. I'm taking rigorous notes, listening to all of the other startups here, and it's a really great space and good exposure to understanding the industry. So I'm Caroline Camo, as I stated before, co-founder, chief commercial officer here at Fire Neural Network. And what do we do? FNN finds fires lightning fast, with lightning being an imperative word here. Everyone in this call understands wildfires are a big problem. One of the images that impact me the most is this image of the skyline of New York City during the 2023 Canadian fires. And it's absolutely covered in toxic smoke. I have family that was personally influenced by this, so it's really a cause that's close to my heart. And what was the major cause of these Canadian wildfires and wildfires in general? It's lightning. So lightning is responsible for over 90% of the area burned in Canada. For California last year, it was 83%. For Florida, it's 75%. It's a very big culprit in creating these complex fires. Not only is it devastating for our environment, but it's also an economic damage. So according to the US Senate report, 625 billion were costed in losses just by lightning ignited wildfire damages. One big issue is the timing. Right now, it's taking over 24 hours to locate these lightning ignited fires. They often happen in very remote locations where there aren't hikers or highways or people driving by that simply call it in. So these fires are doubling in size every 3 to 5 minutes. So every second really counts. Let's go ahead and take a look at the solution. It's a team effort, the wildfire issue, but Fire Neural Network certainly has the solution for lightning ignited wildfires. We have our patented, protected high-risk lightning detector. And here we're able to distinguish those strikes that start wildfires. Why is this important? Because high-risk lightning strikes are actually lasting 1,000 times longer, creating 1,000 times more heating, becoming responsible for these ignition points. In the workflow, you can see in the middle how these solutions work together. The lightning strikes, we're able to analyze 35 plus environmental data parameters at that specific coordinate. We combine it with the lightning properties. We plug it into our artificial intelligence developed by FNN. Then we're able to disperse a high-risk lightning alert to local authorities, emergency departments, even utility companies. What does it look like? We provide a dashboard with Esri. We are one of their startup partners. And with this dashboard, we're able to show with 40-meter accuracy where this likely wildfire ignition has happened. And we also integrate into multiple platforms. Some agencies prefer Teams. The pilots are equipped with ForeFlight, the iPad mapping application, and we have a custom map layer inside this. I like this GIF. It's a visualization of what high-risk lightning means. So on the left, you can see what majority of lightning strikes do. It's 95%, they're cold, they're short, they're not burning your house down or your fire or your trees or your utility substation. But then there's that 5% that's lasting 1,000 times longer that we've coined as high-risk lightning that unfortunately does burn your house down or burn the forests down. So our detector not only has a 40-second delivery time analyzing the environmental data and lightning parameters, but we're also very accurate, as I stated before. Our coverage is 30 miles per sensor. And then we also have it completely autonomous, so it has its own power and Wi-Fi device. We often like to compare ourselves to partners such as wildfire cameras, satellite data, and emergency helicopters. But oftentimes these resources and different partners are too slow to be catching these fires within seconds. So is this just an idea or is this operational? Fortunately, it's the second half and we have over 3,000 firefighters using our data globally. We have the largest presence in Florida. We're in California, Northern and Southern with CAL FIRE in San Bernardino. We're in Montana, DNRC. We're also in Brazil and Australia. This wouldn't be possible with the team that makes up Fire Neural Network. We have about 32 of us. We have 4 co-founders. I've introduced myself here. Our CEO, Dr. Ishvan Qureshi, has his PhD in lightning physics. Our CTO, he is a Nobel Prize winner. He has his PhD in astrophysics. He's an absolute expert when it comes to artificial intelligence and large database management. And then we have our COO, Tomasz Qureshi, who's really experienced with manufacturing. Some notable advisors are Craig Fugate. He was the former FEMA administrator during President Obama. And then we also have Paul Horn. He was the founder of IBM Watson, the world's first supercomputer. Major markets for Fire Neural Network include federal, and I'll keep an eye on the time here. So we've got 28 billion, a large division accounting with FEMA budgets. Here's an interesting slide, our current revenue pipeline. We've secured a few deals with utility companies. In the first half of next year, we're looking to secure the paying end of our pilots that we have with Flagler County, Palm Beach County, Montana, and then also with Florida Forest Service. Second half of next year, we're looking to see through the pilots with NextEra Energy and Florida Power and Light. This is the ask slide. We're looking for a bridge round of 1 million to match the National Science Foundation SBIR Phase 2B that we have already secured 500,000. And this will be mostly allotted towards production, marketing, and operations. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. I want to acknowledge that we may have questions from the panel, but we should be keeping it brief because we also have additional presenters and finite time. So I want to express gratitude for what you shared. Are there questions, comments from the panel? I was really excited to learn more about fire neural network contextuality here.
How much does it cost to buy one?
Sure. So we have a single asset sale, 16,000 per sensor. We do a minimum of 6 sensors per region. And that's not because we want to sell more. No, because we actually need a maximum overlap for the most accurate location and strike duration.
Is the 30 miles a 30 miles from where the unit is located, or it's 15 miles in each direction?
It would be, so it's a 15-mile radius, but we would place the detectors every 30 miles in a grid system so that the circles have a slight overlap.
Got it. And do you have any proof that your system has actually detected a fire within 40 seconds, or is that theory?
No, we've fortunately have the proof. Currently, just in Florida alone, we had detected 165 lightning ignited fires in 40 seconds.
Okay.
And what's been really nice is if the division or the client has a big pilot fleet, they prefer 4 flights so that they can see it immediately in their aircraft and can fly right to these points.
It's very impressive. I'm highly interested in learning more about what you're doing. I will say that just as a suggestion, the word bridge, when you say you're looking for a $1.5 million bridge, there are so few investors in the world that wake up in the morning and say, oh, I'm looking to find a bridge that I can basically put my money into. So you're eliminating 95% of potential investors by just using the word bridge. Just a thought.
That's a good feedback. Thank you.
I want to continue to acknowledge, if we don't have an immediate question from the panel, we do have a couple other presenters that are pending before we are out of our formal time. So I want to attune to that, but I do want to thank you for sharing this, because I feel like there's much more to ask and think through and understanding how this connects together with a sector that needs more agency in this kind of regard. Claudia, was there a pending question, or shall we go to the next presenter?
Well, I mean, does anyone else? I personally don't. I mean,
I just want to say that what you're doing is excellent. Put your information in the chat. I would love to see your deck. I think you're onto something. I like that it's only 16 grand a pop. At least it's something that might be economical. At the end of the day, great ideas are nothing if they're too expensive. And so I'm always hunting for the ideas where it's economical. And you might be onto something important here. So thank you for coming and pitching. But let's
had a
move on,
question
just because we do want to get everybody in, and we're going to run a little late.
Yeah.
No
Josh,
problem. Thank you so much for the platform.
Josh, did you have a question or no? In here.
Well, I guess just really quick.
Oh, we're at 5. Okay.
No, go ahead, Josh. What do you have?
Just what other use cases do you see as other than just wildfire? I mean, I'm seeing other stuff like just lightning safety in general, but is there any other use cases you guys are looking at?
That's a great question, Josh. Thank you. Yeah, we have quite a few different use cases right now. We're exploring some with solar farms that are suffering from lightning strikes, also the wind turbine farms as well. And then we also have substation that is affected by the same high-risk lightning that's lasting 1,000 times longer, that's leaving a lot of these grid resiliency issues in the United States. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to hand over to Claudia. If we are going a little over for the final presentations, we just want to make clear who's still presenting while we still have a moment, but I want to thank Fire Neural Network for sharing, and our collective learning from that is still pending further to understand better, because I think it's really exciting. But Claudia, who do we have next on deck?
We have Allison Wolf, CEO of Vibrant Planet.
She was here earlier in the meeting, but I don't see her in the meeting now. So maybe
I'm gonna step in. I'm gonna step in for Allison, if that's okay.
Please.
Sure, Tate. I knew you were on deck. Yeah, sounds great. I know we were trying to work with your schedules. Go for it. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. Let me.
While Tate is bringing up his slides, Claudia, how many more are after Tate?
2.
Okay, great.
Okay, can we all see that?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, happy everyone. My name is Tate Perkins, so I work on partnerships here at Vibrant Planet. I'm going to talk to you about managing wildfire hazard and how we believe technology can support resilience planning and mitigation at all scales. And so, for those of you that haven't heard of us, Vibrant Planet, we're a Series A startup that was created with the goal of increasing the pace and scale of wildfire resilience. And so our product, our way of doing that, is a decision support platform in an annual subscription base, and it's sold by the acre. So kind of the challenge that we aim to solve, the reason we built our platform, is the wildfire resilience planning process has some key inefficiencies that stand between you and the most important part, which is putting hazardous fuels treatments on the ground to reduce risk. And so one of those being oftentimes agencies lack a clear fine scale view of the hazard, the current conditions, and what the values are that are at risk on their landscape. I think it's also really hard to know where to start, right? There's hundreds of potential data sources to process and modeling to be done. And then oftentimes there's differing agendas, competing partnership needs, and all these factors is why it can take years to come to consensus. So we think about the process of building resilience as a 4-step process. So evaluating the landscape, designing forest treatments to reduce that risk, implementing those projects, and then lastly, learning and identifying where you can improve. And so we support throughout the entirety of that cycle, all while kind of adapting your strategy as your risk profile might be growing due to climate change and forest conditions are changing. And so to boil it down, our focus is to provide data-driven insights to streamline landscape risk evaluation, project design, and ultimately put the most impactful treatments on the ground based on partnership priorities and funding realities. And so critical component of all the work we do is the wildfire hazard modeling from PowerLogix. And so PowerLogix is a Vibrant Planet company we've merged with. They've been around for over 20 years, co-developing large fire simulation models with the U.S. Department of Agriculture, with the U.S. Forest Service, with the Department of the Interior. And they've also authored over 50 peer-reviewed science papers, fire science papers. And so kind of the fun part we get excited about here is getting a look into how the platform works. So we don't just put treatments on the ground where there's hazard, which is common and something we often see. We put treatments on the ground based on your resilience priorities, right? Such as we can see over here some of the priorities that we allow you to choose from: protecting assets, safety, recreation, biodiversity, right? Our platform allows you to express these priorities and then identify actual feasible opportunities to put work on the ground and reduce risk tangibly to those things that you just said that you cared most about. And so once we tell the system what we care most about, in minutes pops out stacked ranked projects in order of priority. We know that project 1 is the most important project over on the right. You can kind of see some of those most important project statistics and helps us get a breakdown of what those projects would consist of, right? So we can see here in those projects, it'd be 23% manual, 1% mechanical rearrangement, 58% mechanical removal. And then we kind of look at some of the finances too. So we see, what are the total acres being treated? What's the estimated gross cost? What's the product benefit offset, right? If we wanted to, remove some of these trees and bring them to a lumber and offset the project costs, we can see also the product benefit costs. And what's great about our platform is you can run these scenarios an unlimited number of times, adjusting your priorities, adjusting budgetary constraints, acreage caps, and fine-tune those projects. And then once you have the project exactly how you want them, then you can export them to support grant funding or to circulate to your surrounding community. Beyond kind of management and financial metrics, our platform also delivers outcome-focused metrics to understand and qualify the effects of your work, right? So this can be incredibly useful for generating partner buy-in and raising more funds to do the most important work. And then all these insights, to give you guys context, are powered by dozens of publicly available data sets that we've harmonized using the power of machine learning and AI to give users a consistent view of the landscape, which isn't available in any one of those data sets. And so we process this data and break it down into likely treatment units. And then you can see in this box over here on the left really speaks to the granularity of data we have. We're able to see at a management unit level who owns the land. What's the average flame length if a fire were to occur? What's the recommended treatment? What would be the cost to treat that for management unit, and kind of what's the canopy cover for any given management unit? And then to kind of cap this all off, this is the current progress we've made to date working across industries throughout the whole entire West with partners such as large landscape managers, such as the Forest Service, working in the community resilience space, and working with utilities, right? So we were at 5 million acres 12 months ago, and now we're sitting at over 37 million acres deployed in over 6 states in the last 12 months. So just to close that up, we're kind of open to the discussion with any investors interested in getting involved in our Series A extension. I'm also happy to take anyone through a demo to help you get a bit more under the hood at a later time. But my email is tate@vibrantplanet.net. And then if investors are curious to learn more, our CEO's email is there as well.
How do you make money?
How do we make money? Municipalities, government agencies, large landscape managers, they purchase the platform. And that's how we make money. We're a SaaS company.
I mean, what do you charge?
We charge by the acre. It really depends. We have a big suite of product functionality. So anywhere from $6 an acre north, really depending on what feature and functionality you might need.
Got it. Okay. Forgive me for moving us forward without a big Q&A period for you. In fact, you and the next couple of people pitching, we're going to have to speed through and eliminate Q&A so we can keep everybody here. I apologize, but put your information into the chat so that everybody who does have a question can reach out to you directly. Thank you, Tate.
Awesome. Thank you.
Claudia, who's next?
Inferno, roll shutters. We have and Steve, you're our final. You're our closer. Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Hi.
I don't have any information. It looks like you're Bruce Badeau. So yeah, when you get a chance, we'd love to get your stuff. But
No, it's can you hear me? This is David Horobin. Can you hear me speaking?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to put my presentation up here. We're getting down to the basics of what we do to save buildings that are subject to wildfires. And I want to thank Norma and Mark for having set all this up. I've been on many of these calls, and they're just fascinating. So many years ago, I lost a house to a fire in the Santa Cruz Mountains. It was devastating. We'd closed escrow on the Tuesday. On Sunday, we were standing in the ashes of our new house. And I turned to, as an architect, I turned to my then fiance and said, I need to do something about this. My dad had taught me as a kid that if you find a problem and you have a passion for something, you have an obligation to find a solution to that problem. So I started out a few years later when we moved to Napa, and I built this house. It was built as about as fire resistant a house as you could get at the time. Concrete walls, concrete roof.
We can't see your PowerPoint.
You can't see it?
No, there's no PowerPoint. Good. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you for telling me. I wonder what I need to do here.
You got to press the green button that says share with the arrow at the bottom of Zoom and start there.
Okay. Goodness me. could we move to the next person? Because I'm going to have to sort this
Okay,
out.
that next person is Steve. Steve, are you ready? And then we can see if David's ready after that to go last.
Yeah. So the next one is Steve Wolf. He's CEO and founder of Team Wildfire. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you so much. It's asking for a password to share my screen.
Huh.
That doesn't make sense.
That's what I said.
Let me go check. Did you load yours up on ours?
You guys may need to do the presentations without the presentation.
Yeah. Oh, there's Steve's. You got it going now. Okay,
Yeah.
it's popping
Oh,
up.
lovely. Great. I don't know what you can see, but I can see something. All right. So anyway, my name is Steve Wolf. I'm the founder of Team Wildfire. I worked as a special effects coordinator in Hollywood for a long time, blowing things up and figuring out how to put them out after. And along the way, as one of those ADD people who never likes to do things the same way twice, I stumbled upon some new technology for putting out wildfires. So when I looked at the wildfire problem, I looked at it completely differently. I didn't think that it was a software issue in the hard world. And I realized that the secret to controlling mega fires was to control microclimates, actually control the climate around the fire. So as you've seen, we've seen millions of dollars invested in cameras and satellites and sensors, only to find that data doesn't douse fires. I've never seen a firefighter run away from a fire screaming, "Get me some more sensors, get me some more cameras." Like what they need are bigger guns. They need something that actually puts the fire out more effectively. Ultimately, they all know the weather controls the fire. What the firefighters do is really minimal impact. Wind drives fire. When I asked firefighters, what do you need to put these fires out? They said, it would take a hurricane. So I said, all right, Hollywood effects guy, I know how to build a hurricane. So we went out and set to give them exactly what they asked for. And so I've taken basically 37 years of pyro experience and used it to build some new solutions for wildfire. Spent a lot of time talking with the fire community, fire chiefs, finding out what they need. Incredulous that we're still fighting wildfires with medieval gardening tools, you know, in this age, right? This is what 100 years of progress looks like in the fire department. You know, basically they changed their hats. I think they went from wooden handled to fiberglass handled. If they need a hurricane, we deliver it to them though. And the way we're doing that is we're putting jet engines onto trucks and being able to deliver retardant through the exhaust of the jet at 400 miles an hour. Now, you've never seen a hurricane and a wildfire in the same place because a hurricane obliterates a wildfire. And we can literally zap 400 mile an hour rainstorm at a fire in that microclimate around the fire. You don't have, you know, they talk about fires as 10,000 acres, 100,000 acres. That's crap. That's how much was burned. The actual line of fire is linear, not area. And so it's really not that much you have to attack at a time. You know, fire requires fuel, oxygen, heat, and a chemical reaction. You take away any one of those things away, the fire goes out. So with jet engine, you can strip away fuel, you can increase humidity, you can lay down retardant. And in our tests, we were able to lay down retardant at a rate of 20 acres a minute. We want to do fire ground services for firefighters, evacuation route hardening, and asset protection. Direct attack, create safety zones, do mop up, escape routes so firefighters can get out. We've got various scenarios, you know, using the jets to either drive fuels out of an area so that firefighters can get out. You can point jets on either side of the road so that you can make the sides of the road fireproof, essentially creating an escape gauntlet by making sure that you don't, you know, have a repeat of things like the campfire where the evacuation routes caught fire. And asset protection. When they shut down the Pantex nuclear missile plant in Texas, you know, that's when we knew wildfire is not a civilian problem anymore. It's a military threat and therefore military money. So we're a SaaS business also, but it's suppression as a service. In 1980, if you asked anyone, does the post office do a good job? We'd say, who knows? There's nothing to compare it to. Then FedEx came along and realized how bad a job the government was doing delivering our mail. I think that we're going to see more privatization of wildfire suppression when we put the profit into putting the fire out, not the profit into how long can you spend fighting a fire. We are going to build just like airplanes do, about $300,000 a day. The machine costs about $1 million to make. So we have a full ROI on each machine within the week. We're doing a raise right now, our seed B. Tim Draper was our first investor. He wrote the first $500,000 check. Cottonwood and Muse came in behind that. We're raising another $4 million so we can build more machines, do a road show, produce more revenue producing machines. And I'm going to stop share on that and just give you a...
Are you knocking down trees or buildings at 400 miles per hour?
You don't knock down anything that you pointed at, but you can knock down what you need to. Am I sharing the video right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this was our first test. What's remarkable about this is that in that entire test, we used 3 gallons of water. This was a demonstration that we did for the machine is, as you saw in the deck, 50 times larger than the prototype that I built and demonstrated.
Do you have any patents?
I have 4 patents.
Right.
A patent on the mobile use of jet engines for wildfire suppression. We have patents on the AI that drives it. We have patents on a backpack version of that uses a smaller jet engine like the one behind me that, is very, very effective. You get about 10 times more suppression per gallon when you mist it and drive it than when you just use a hose. The logistics of getting water to fires is horrendous. So if you can put out more fire with less water, it's pretty cool.
I love it. I wish we had more time to spend on this. This one is really interesting. Please make sure you send me a deck. I didn't realize I would like this one as much. Now that I've seen your pitch and your videos, I actually really do. And it seems to me that your solution, in conjunction with the gentleman who earlier had the non-toxic way of, the strong water might be a winning combination. You guys absolutely should be talking to each other. That's the whole reason why Norm and I put these events on, thankfully with Bobby and Claudia being the lead here, so that we can try and hook you guys all up and make some meaningful difference. But we got to move on because I want to finish the event at the top of the hour. We've never gone over 3 hours ever for a Venture Starters event, and I don't want to be breaking records and having everybody fall asleep on us. But nevertheless, I want to get into the other pitch person who was the one that the Inferno roll shutters. And if you guys can't get your video up or your deck up, why don't you just do an elevator pitch? Or did we lose them? I know that Bruce is here, so Bruce is always good for an elevator pitch if the other gentleman isn't available.
Unmute yourself, David.
Oh, there you are. You're still in the room, David. David Horben. If you want to try and just do an elevator pitch, I assume that your story is that you've developed shutters that go on the home to try and prevent the fire from getting in the inside through the shutter. You're on mute, David, so we're not actually able to hear you.
You think he's trying to talk?
I just wanted to take a moment, since we're going to be out of time shortly, and there's going to be this last presentation, to thank our panel, our curation panel, without which this would not have been possible, to be able to understand the right social innovations to bring together for this very first gathering. Also to our whole ecosystem of collaborators, volunteers, and institutional partners in the context of all the organizations that presented today. They're doing incredible work in the field, and the sector is only a sector that could be the future kind of wildfire prevention collaboration that is needed in the world if we can become aware of each other in this sense. So very grateful to have had this chance to gather here together today. And I can hand back to Claudia and Mark's.
Well, Andrew Potter, are you still in the room? You had some observation from a former UN climate scientist.
Yeah.
Are you here?
Hi there, everybody. I've listened to everything that everybody's been saying, and the amount of innovation that I've seen today has been absolutely mind-blowing, from drones to everything. And I wanted to give you impart a little bit of wisdom, because I was the former director of communications for the United Nations World Bioenergy Association, and also which was one of the part of the Renewable Energy Alliance. I truly believe that everything I've heard today could be the part, or at least the beginning, and I think Mark and Norma should take over this, is potentially a wildfire organization. And I say that from experience, because if you are an industry representative in something which is incredibly important, there are 39 million people living in California. Climate change is an incredibly important issue. If you're talking about insurance, the amount of £100 or dollars, per individual to invest would cover every single investment which is being looked for right now. That would be, well, what's 39 million times 100? A lot. The thing is, in terms of climate science, in terms of remittance and preservation of material assets, both things are working in opposition. It takes more than political will, it takes human will and ingenuity to create the solutions that people need, but they don't work in isolation. They do not work in isolation. In the Red Alliance, you had international solar, geothermal, hydro, all of the other ones, wind. Yeah, it was fighting against each other. The only way that you can come to make something a reality is by working together. And I think this could be, this is one of the most exciting venture starters I've ever been involved with. I think potentially, and I'm not saying it will be, but I think Mark and Norma, you've done such an incredible thing today by bringing so much ingenuity together. I think potentially this could be a international wildfire organization. I think, send your emails to Mark and Norma.
Oops, I'm sorry there. Oops, I was trying to actually mute another one. Andrew, my bad. First of all, I just want to say, as much as Norma and I would take credit for anything here, this is really Bobby and Claudia who
Oh, is it? Oh,
they're
sorry.
they are the pioneers.
Well done.
This.
Absolutely
they really are.
incredible.
And I just want venture starters to basically help them to be bigger and expand out their voice and their vision and what they're doing to a bigger audience, and that's why we're collaborating with Bobby and Claudia.
The other guys wanting to talk, the one who was overlooked before.
Are we talking about David?
Yes, we're talking about David.
Okay, David, you ready to go? You need to unmute. I'm sorry if you.
I've got some technological issues here. Okay.
Here's my suggestion, David. We have a technology night that's going to be 2 weeks from today, I believe. Please come back and pitch us what you would have pitched today. Because unless you want, and you're welcome to do an elevator pitch right now if you'd like to on this.
Let me see if I can do this. Okay. I may have it.
And thank you, Mark, for pointing that out to us. I didn't mean to miss David.
And thank you, Andrew Potter. Thank you, Andrew Potter.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Good one,
honestly, there is a foundation here for a wildfire association. I think the together you're stronger.
Well, maybe you can help us, Andrew, if you'd like to. Maybe
I'm just telling you from my own experience that, like, any industry, whether it's bioenergy or any renewable energy, you have to have an industry representative. And the thing is, what you're doing is you're solving things together. you're literally putting out fires together.
Good
I'm just
point.
saying, together you could do some incredible things, and it would, I'm just saying from experience that's my take. And
Thank you for
it's been
that.
an absolute pleasure.
We appreciate your comments, and we're hoping to build something out of this first ever event. And thank you to the 80 people who are still here almost 3 hours into an event. Oh my God, I can hardly believe that you're all still here. Anyway, David, why don't you take it away with your pitch?
Okay, I can't get this thing up.
Can you just tell us, verbalize what it is that you're doing at least?
Absolutely. So what we've done is we're sort of approaching fires from the point of view of saving buildings. And the biggest problem with buildings is that in a wildfire, 75% of the houses that burn up because the windows crack under the heat and the fire goes right through the window. The window does exactly what it's supposed to do in the first place. So I lost a house to a fire in the Santa Cruz Mountains many years ago. Closed escrow on the Tuesday. We lost our house. We were standing in the ashes of our house on the Sunday, and it was a nightmare. And as an architect, I turned to my fiance and said, I need to do something about this. I think I have a responsibility. So it took me a long time, but when we moved to Napa many years later, I designed a house that was about as fire resistant as you could get, except for the fact that we had no answer to the windows. Yeah, we tried some weird kind of hinge shutters and some slider shutters and everything. But having designed several, many houses in the past with the same problem, all of a sudden one night I came up with the idea. Let's take a conventional roller shutter and change it to make it fire resistant, which is exactly what we did. Needed to make sure that this thing worked. So we took it to an ASTM testing company, which did all the ASTM tests that we needed on it at the time, firing 1850 degrees at one side of the shutter. And then we ended up with about 580, 590 degrees on the other side. And what that does is it basically protects the glass and the window. So we keep the heat out away from the window. Excuse me. We keep the heat away from the window, and we also keep the air away from the window so that nothing can push flames through any gaps or anything. So we seal off that entire frame around the window in order to be able to protect it. What that does then is it gets everybody into a position where lives are potentially saved. The first thing is, having spoken with the local fire chief here, who told me, I have something here that will save the lives of his firemen. You've got my attention, Dave. And what it does in the testing is we tested it for 30 minutes with very little detriment to the shutter. That 30 minutes gives a fireman all the time that he generally needs to get into a building, rescue people, aged people, infirm people, and then get out of there. It also gives the occupants time to get out of there. And once they're out of there, they can press a remote control, they can shout at Alexa, shutters, fire, and the shutters will come down and protect the house. So where this ends up being seriously economically feasible is that, number one, we're saving the house. Number two, we're saving possessions, cars, and we're saving lives. Beyond that, the insurance company comes into this. The insurance companies come into this because, as we well know, they're walking away from California in droves. Now, we're working with 2 insurance companies right now to change that. And what it means is that we will be able to make houses far more interesting to insurance companies to come in and insure. Now, we're not the only thing, but we are kind of the last piece of the jigsaw puzzle. There's stuccos, there's roof tiles, there's vents, there's all sorts of stuff out there. But nobody so far has come up with the answer for the windows, and we can do that. So what we've done is We've got Mother Nature and the insurance companies providing a huge market for us here. So if you take that 75% of houses that have burnt up, that means that we can protect something like 1.5 million homes with what we're doing in California right now. The actual market ends up being potentially in the region of about $300 million a year if we were to take 1% of the market that's available to us and apply an average of like $37,000 per house to it to protect it completely. So if people take care of all the brush around the house, then we can basically provide them with everything they need to protect that house completely. And
David, I'm sorry, we're kind of running out of time on the pitch and even the event, but just out of curiosity, did you design something different from hurricane shutters?
They're the same. It's the same product with a coating on them that will give us the protection that we need.
Ah, the coating. Okay, now it makes sense. All right. So thank you, David. I'm sorry that we kind of had you at the very end of our program, but we're going to get better as we go. I would like to have Bobby and Claudia be the last ones actually to speak. So I'm just going to say thank you all for being here. Norma, do you have any final thoughts?
Well, I know Bruce, hold on, Bruce was trying to say something, and I thought we should give him a chance because he seems to have something to do with fires. But if you can do that quickly, Bruce.
You're on mute, Bruce, just so you know.
You're on mute, Bruce.
Well, I work with David, and I think he did a splendid job, even though the PowerPoint was even better, but he's a great stand and deliver kind of guy. And he's the inventor. And I think it's a really cool deal. I'm doing all the numbers and he's doing all the think work and the architectural interfaces with people. He's been in this a long, long time. I'm the Johnny come lately, but it's a really cool project. So I don't know what else I can say. I really didn't have a question. I had some questions about the other types of products here. I think, yes, I remember what it was. The man that had that beautiful glider, it looks like it was only 10 miles an hour of forward speed. What kind of wind shear do you have at 70,000 feet? How can you go against the wind up there, which I think is more than 10 miles an hour, but it may not be.
I think just because I really want to end our event, Bruce, that's getting into long answers.
Okay, okay.
Why don't you ask him directly? Look, this was not the perfect first event we've ever done with a new theme.
It was great.
But it still turned out to be spectacular. And I just want to especially thank Claudia and Bobby, and all of their entire community. Many of them are still in the room. They are so impressive. And if you'd like to get involved in this topic, come to their Wednesday events. You'll see that I'm there at least half the time. I try my best to attend when I can. They are the leaders in this area. They are the inspiration for us even doing this event. So just want to point that out. But because this was such a success and we had an overwhelming number of founders that want to pitch, we will be doing more of these events in the future. It would be amazing if Venture Starters was the springboard to help get some of this stuff going so we can help the world out in all of these ways. I also want to quickly just point out, next week we have Life Science event. If those of you are interested, Norm and I are spending a lot of our time focused on life sciences right now. That's kind of where our hearts have been for the last many months. And we would especially appreciate you all attending next week for Life Science. We then have Technology Night. We have some other upcoming events. You can go to venturestarters.com to see everything. Again, I'm going to end my pitch here by just thanking you all. Norma, do you have any final thoughts before Bobby and Claudia end our event?
Thank you. And I will turn it over to Bobby soon. Bobby, you've done a great job. And so have you, Claudia. Thank you very much for doing this. And to all the people who came to present to us, brilliant minds, to helping us with a major problem in this, not only in our country, but in other countries, in Canada, everywhere. We're all having forest fires. We're all risking lives. And you firefighters, if you're in the room, you are some brave, brave people. And I applaud you so much for doing what you do and saving lives and saving homes and helping people. And just thank you for doing that. And also for the ones that came up with all these great ideas. This is exactly what is needed. If you will send your decks to Mark and I, we will try to see if we can help you find some course to get this done. So please send your decks to us. Please connect to me on LinkedIn. That's how I usually start working with people. And just thank you for coming. Thank you for the investors that are in the room. Thank you for any interns that are here. Thank you all for being part of this. And thank you for your solutions. Let's get these solutions to be reality. Okay. Thank you so much.
No, I just wanted to say thank you all so much for taking the time to have everyone become more aware of their interdependence. As a social innovator, everyone has upstream and downstream relationality in terms of the things that happen before your intervention or after. And it's only by getting to be in community together that we can become aware of that and build the right living bridges between the social innovations that we need to bring together to get to systems change in catastrophic wildfire prevention and to get to a bright future in this regard. Let me hand over for Claudia's final words.
Wow, I'm kind of blown away. So thank you all. Teams are unbelievable, the commitment to this mission, and we do it together, right? We do it together. If you guys want to do demos, come to our meetings, let us know. I put our website, preventwildfire.world, communicate. You got Mark's info and Norma's. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you all. If you could just open up your mics and shower the people who presented with praise for being brave and coming and pitching to us today, that would be fantastic.
Hooray!
Thank you.
Hooray!
Awesome.
All right.
Brilliance. Lots of brilliance. Watch out, fire. You're going out.
It's a wonderful event. See you all at the next.
Tell them how to save the chat. Everyone
at
wants
the top of the chat, there's
wait. Don't let it go yet.
Please click on that. It says save the chat. It'll
save the chat
to your computer. It'll have everybody's email addresses and whatever they put in. It doesn't include the direct messages, just the ones to the open public. But maybe that'll be useful to you guys to connect. We're so proud to be part of this, and both the Venture Starters community is amazing, but also Bobby and Claudia's community, equally amazing. So together, we're going to do some amazing things in the future. Take care, everybody. Have a great
day. You.
Bye-bye.
Keep it on for a minute longer while I'm copying. Just one more minute.
Save the chat.
Mark, I know, but I don't know where it goes, Norma.
It goes onto your laptop somewhere. Or
on your computer.
And all right.
Mark, would you repeat the email address where you'd like pitch decks sent?
Yeah, mark@venturestarters.com is ideal for me. I would very much, Steve, especially, you may not know, but Norm and I come from Hollywood. That was kind of where our start was. So your story resonates with us.
Yes. And if anyone wants to send the deck to Mark at Venture Starters, so go ahead and send your decks to him.
VentureStarters.com. Okay, thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.